Hi, welcome. I decided to suddenly go live. I really wanted to go draw a map, and I figured I'd invite people to see how I do it. If you've been watching the Mystic Arts videos for a while, you might have noticed. Maybe you've only seen one, but you might have noticed that behind me, when I'm talking, there's a huge map on my wall. I believe it's about 2.5 meters wide, and it's 2.5 meters wide and 2 meters tall. And a lot of people ask how I make that map, and annoyingly, the answer is not Wonderdraft or Incarnate, although you can make parchment-style world maps in those softwares. But annoyingly, the answer is I do it in Photoshop. But there is good news here. Photoshop is not that complicated. It is pricey. It's out of a lot of people's budget. But if you have access to Photoshop or you're willing to get it, then I can maybe show you a thing or two about how I do it and why I do it in Photoshop, because it gives me a lot of control over it. And I figured, because normally when I go draw maps, I end up sitting in a Discord call with my friends. And we talk about the map while we do it, and I figured this time I'd just go live, and then we could talk to you folks while I do it. But that wouldn't tickle my brain in the same way as sitting in a Discord call with my friends, so I invited my good friend Magnus, who you all might know from moderating the chats, and is also the co-designer on the stuff we have on the Patreon. Magnus is going to sit here and call with me and talk, so if everybody can say hello, and Magnus, you can maybe introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm the token friend.
Token friend.
Yay! Here representing all the friends that can't be here tonight. No, I'm also a writer, though I don't claim to be a director. We've been working together now for what, 8 years? And playing. Oh yeah, I think we're 7 years this year. And playing D&D together for pretty much just as long. So.
Yeah, we started working together largely in no small part because of D&D.
Absolutely.
If I remember correctly, I showed you a short film I made on D&D, and then Magnus hired me basically into the company we now both work at.
Yeah, the film was okay. It was the dedication of wanting to make a film about D&D. You know?
Yeah.
No, but it was honestly, it was more the. I remember the film, and I remember specifically it was the prep, like the world design prep you'd done for your own game, for your own hobby.
Yeah,
that made me think, hey, all right, might as well pay the guy to do this.
Yeah, yeah. I believe in the job application I included like the word count of my current setting at the time. This was 7 years ago, but I don't know what the word count is now, but it was a large number back then.
I think it's certainly multiplied many times over.
I would assume so. So I was just going to open up and show you all the map that I have here. Hang on.
I will say
Discord.
It does specifically hurt.
Yeah. He's picking his words. Yeah, so the map on the wall behind me we printed when we moved into this apartment, which is it's been more than a couple of years now. And that map, and that map is low detail, and it has a detailed section of the old world. Oh, classic! I lost Magnus. Hang on. Yeah, now I should get him back. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, there we go. Classic. So I turned off the Discord thing because I was streaming the Discord screen, but that turns off the audio. I'm still learning how to use Obsidian. I spent a little bit of time just before the stream started trying to figure out how to do stream overlay, but
yeah,
or Discord, like, so you can have a little icon when Magnus speaks, but that didn't work.
Thanks, guys, for pointing that out. Now, I'm being told you should give me an island, which, I'll be honest, the fact that you haven't done so already in the years we've been playing together, in the years we've been working together on this map, I haven't thought of that before, but now that it's been pointed out to me, I desperately want one. So I
This is
feel
just
like that
entitlement
should be
now.
one of our objectives here tonight.
We could give you an island. We can draw in an island.
Wonderful.
So I don't know how much you guys missed when I was explaining, but so the map on the wall behind me is low detail, in that basically it looks like if we zoom into Drashkut up here, it all looks like this. As in, I've got provinces on it. Oh, this is very heavy. I might have to cut out my stream to you, Magnus, if because it's very graphics card heavy, but
That's all good. I can just follow along with delay on the live stream.
yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that just to try and save my.
Alrighty, I'll switch over.
There we go. Alright, a little bit of technical difficulties. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a Mystic Art stream. So this here's low detail. You can see I've drawn in the provinces, and I've got names, and then I've got the cities, and that's it. And the only thing that's detailed on the wall behind me is this area, and this is what a detailed map looks like. And it's got forests, and rivers, and lakes, all kinds of stuff. And it's got little names for, the Mesomedes Strait down here, and the Miramura Channel and Sandpoint Channel. It's got all these sort of detail-specific spots. And I'm slowly in the process now. After we put the map up, I decided to put a detailed map of the old world up there in order to motivate myself to do the rest of the map. And since then, I've done all of Atroxia and all of the Southern Isles and large chunks of Valor, this big blob continent here in the middle. But I haven't finished it. So I am gonna try my best to get it done today. Well, I'll not get it done. I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say.
I'm gonna do a small incremental progress, and then
how many sittings did it take to do the detailed pass on Atroxia?
Like 6 maybe sittings, and those are several hours long often.
Yeah. So unless we stream till morning, I think we'll be very happy with some incremental progress. I should say. Though there's a lot of desert and plains to deal with here. So.
Yes, there is. And there's a whole detail map that's already been copy-pasted on here. Millen Jaswal, will this be published as a VOD after? Yeah, we'll leave the VOD up if everything goes well. Hand-drawn or stenciled? These are, stenciled, I believe, is the correct terminology for this. So the mountains and the forest, the trees, I don't know how to draw like that. So I went online and I found some Photoshop brushes. And I just sort of plop them in as best I can. Hjalte asks, are there spoilers for the main campaign in the detailed map of Atroxia? I don't think so. Let me do a little peekaroonie. No, I don't think so. So he's asking because this big forest is what they're exploring in Atroxia right now. But I've drawn it low detail. I have a more detailed text map somewhere else. Forest look a bit like stenciled. Yeah, I can zoom in here. You can see there's no magic going on. These are just stenciled in mountains, stenciled in forests. But yet people remain at least like slightly impressed. And I think that's just because it's big and there's a bunch of details. Like there's no magic to this. You just stencil these in. This is some brush pack I found. It's all from the same pack. So whoever made it, I should shout them out.
Oh yeah. But no, it's not magic, but it's a whole lot of work, and it's the magic of work.
Yeah, I think it's often deceptive how I don't know. People often assume that there's a trick to these things, and annoyingly, the trick is do a lot of work. Where can I see? I'm looking for my brushes. Making Photoshop brushes is really easy if you ever want a special stencil. Yeah. So when I do cities, I do this combination here. Now these are just 3 stenciled brushes put together, but then I copy them, and then I have a city stencil that's like a combination of some other stencils. I'm trying to find brushes. Basic cartography brush set by Henry C.P. cartography brushes by Erago and SR Sketchy Cartography. I just googled fantasy map cartography brushes or something, and I got those three, and I downloaded all of them, and I don't know which one set this is. This is some of them. Could you add the brushes to the description of the VOD when it's uploaded? Yeah, if I find them, I'll go look that up. So Magnus, how would you describe Valor?
How would I describe Valor? Well,
Yeah.
It is the largest continent in Orthon. It is home to fewer civilizations than you might think based on that description, but that's largely down to the fact that it is a lot of desert, a lot of fairly barren plain, similar to the European or Central Asian, I should say, steppes. It has these blasted mountainous wastelands that we associate with the borderlands between the Overlord and the Orcs of Jurassic Duel.
So
and
the Jurassic Duel are up here, up in the north west.
And I think that's what comes to mind. I suppose the east is the bit I've left out, sort of this eastern section of the Andrian colonies, which is defined more by a sort of pre-Age of Discovery colonialist idea, more like European settlements in North Africa than the New World of the Age of Exploration.
Yeah. These two are human, largely human nations or territories or whatever. The Aeriid is sort of Egyptian analog, analogous to the Egyptian empire and later sort of Egyptian kingdoms. And Kergolia is Mongolian inspired, but I think I'm more inspired by the Dothraki than I am by any specific Mongolian history.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I were a better DM, I'd probably go look into actual Mongolian history.
I don't think that's necessarily true. If you were trying to achieve the goal of historical verisimilitude, then sure. But yeah. I think the Dothraki are ultimately that's kind of the most public facing description of like a image of a horse military horse culture.
The Rohirrim, I guess, as well. We haven't really done anything.
That's true. That is true. I guess. Well, where would we have the Rohirrim analogs? Riverfell, sort of.
We could also stick them here if we wanted. Maybe there's
we could.
They're just so Nordic to be the Rohirrim. All the carving shields and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Have I ever played around with Wonder Draft or Dungeon Draft? No, I can't say that I have. I know that we have Ollie on the Discord streams himself making stuff in Dungeon Draft all the time. It looks really good. I'm not. So the reason I choose Photoshop for this has very little to do with my own skill. It is largely that this is a very old file. And I don't know that Wonder Draft existed when I started doing this. It might have done. You might be able to tell me that Wonder Draft is 8 years old. That would surprise me. But I think I started this map. God, I think I was barely out of film school.
Yeah, I think this map existed when we started playing.
Yeah. Together. I've redrawn it several times. So one thing about the coasts here is like these thick coast borders are deliberately thick and vague because this is the second time the thick borders, the second time I've drawn these landmasses, and these new detailed maps are the third time I've drawn these landmasses if you don't count the draft sketch I did first. Actually, let's do it. Since this is a stream about this map, not just about the Photoshop file, but about the map itself, let's do a little bit of background on it. Because it didn't start all in Photoshop. Now, I used to have somewhere piece of paper that's like an A2 size. If you're, I don't know what that is in freedom size, but A2 like European standard. So you got a letter. If you're an American, you got a letter. Then you double it, and then you double it again. That's your A2. And I pencil sketched the Atroxian Sea on it. I just drew that whole thing. I must have been, I don't know, 17 when I did that. And then later on, I did a version of it in Photoshop. This is not that version. This is a version of that version. Hang on. Actually, this might be... This might be a version. Hang on. And then somewhere else, I'm going to have to dig a bit. The Atroxian Sea. Here we go. Old map. This is the original version of Atroxia. Look at that. So this is what I drew. I don't know. I must have been 18. I just opened Photoshop, a little bit in school. I studied multimedia, and then later on it converts into that. So somewhere in the interim, it looked like this. And somewhere in the interim of those two, I got my friend Magnús to do a draft of it, and he drew this color version of this map and made the mountain ranges make a bit more sense. And every time we go, like we explored, this is a campaign I ran in Pathfinder. This is the original Kingmaker campaign I ran. Is when we were playing Pathfinder, I ran it all in this world. This was the entire campaign setting as far as we were concerned back then. We didn't really know. We knew there was something out there, but we didn't know what it was. And when that adventure finished, we didn't return to Atroxia for years and years and years, both in-game, like 150 years in-game, but also multiple years IRL. So by the time we got back to Atroxia, I had sort of redesigned it. It had been enough time that any retcon I did was largely accepted by the players. Feel free to add anything you want, Magnus.
Yeah, no, I'm choosing not to add on the visuals because they pop up so late for me. I'm not sure what you're pointing at each given moment. But Millen Jaswal was asking how much of this map your players have explored. Now, I think we talk about this sometimes. Yeah, sorry, you wanna?
I want to correct Jan here. Jan Geisenberg says these they recognize the mountains and they're probably from Wonderdraft. I believe Gusta drew these by hand. I want to make sure we get that clear. I think I just left him with his Wacom tablet for a bit. I just handed him the map and left him with a Wacom tablet for a while, and then he drew all this. But yeah, sorry. The how much have they explored?
Yeah. Now we talk about this sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of continents we've been on, the only one we haven't been on is Vankara.
Yeah. Hang on, let me get a big brush, so this is all obvious as you explain this.
At least if we're talking large continents. We haven't been on all of the elven continents down in Quinrell either.
No.
And this is through all of the various different
nearly 7
various
games.
Different yes, like dozens of campaigns we've played over 10 years.
Is oh my god. I really hope, and normally I don't do this while running OBS, so I really hope we're going to be able to handle this. This Photoshop file is 26,000 pixels wide and 1,800 tall. Yeah, so we've never been to Vankara, and we've been to 2 places in Quinrell.
Yeah,
like 1 city and 1 wasteland.
Well, 2 cities if you count Victor.
Oh yeah, Victor. From that one time, he teleported into Thalanil, which is where all the red wizards are from in my world.
Yeah.
And we haven't been to many of the smaller islands.
No.
Like when we say we've been to the Mid-Sea, like Mid-Sea Islands, we haven't really talked about here, but we've been to 1 city there. So a lot of these places for us are a single adventure location, right? We go there and we do an adventure in 1 spot, and that was it.
Alexander Hinke asked, what is the scale of this world? I think it's like a third of Earth, a quarter of Earth.
Something like that, yeah.
It's not enormous.
Now, when people say a quarter of Earth, no coffee. Hey, instructor boy. No coffee ring-stained continents yet. I'm missing out, my amigo. Hang on. I might have something like that in an archipelago down in the Southern Isles. Does the Crescent Archipelago count? I don't know.
Andrew Johnson, the world is not made with the intent of like geo similitude. It's not intended to be similar to Earth's geological laws or to adhere to Earth's geological rules.
Sort of aggressively, I want to go against that almost at every opportunity when I can. So you say it's like a third of Earth or quarter of Earth, and then you imagine a small planetoid. But Orthon is not a planet. It is a plane that is relatively flat. It is curved enough to give us the horizon that you would have on Earth, looking towards the horizon line to see where the sun rises and falls. But it is not a planetoid.
Yeah, and in fact, as we were talking about just the other day, the northernmost sea in Orthon is the South Endless Sea, because it is the southernmost extent of the Endless Sea, which is the plane of water.
Yes, because all the elemental planes are attached to this world map. So the northernmost sea is the South Endless Sea. Yeah, and if you go all the way here to the west, sorry, I'm afflicted with a curse where I do not know one from the other. You see there's a bit here called the World's End, where presumably the water falls off the Earth like a huge waterfall, because this is where somewhere out there begins the plane of air. Hey, Dummus, thanks so much. That means the world to me. Did I use any references for the coastlines? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I go into Google Maps and I take a screenshot of a real place and I just put it here. And I don't tell my players. I don't know if Mikey knows that.
So I couldn't point you to specific places without looking into it. You've never highlighted specific places to me.
Yeah.
But we've done similar things in different contexts that I shan't be more specific about. So
yes.
I'm not surprised. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Hefty doc. So we both have very pleasing voices. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
So you're doing this through a series of layer effects. Yeah. We have God knows how many layers. Every now and again, I just have to accept that I now have to lock a continent in place. So I believe the old world is no longer a series of layers, because I rasterized it and flattened it, because otherwise I couldn't load the project. Because I once corrupted the original file, and I had to remake it, because it got so heavy. There were so many layers in there, and I'm terrified of that happening again.
Man.
You could have one of these tiny ones, you know?
I'll take a tiny one. Look, if it makes Hjalti jealous, I've won, no matter the size of the island. It's not about the size of the island, it's about the size of the reaction.
I see. Hjalti's gonna be furious.
Oh, yeah.
Let's grab... let's do our first bit of mapping here. Can I grab the Mesomedia straight? No, I cannot, because this is from the rasterized layer. Like I just said. Man, somebody should teach this imbecile how to listen. So... Hellingham. Oh, there's a push. There's a push on Photoshop. There's an update. So now the text in folders moves the entire folder. Which has actually made it kind of impossible to operate this map. So maybe I won't be able to do much mapping unless I end up spending some time reorganizing folders. This is what happens when you randomly decide to go live on a Saturday afternoon.
Evening, John.
Evening, John. Give him the biggest island. So we know that the two big ones are called Fitzgerald and Hillingham. They're named after Andrian explorers. My world is full of islands named after white guys who went there before anybody else.
Now, crucially, that we've clarified that all these names are the names they're called by the cultures those white guys came from. This is an Atroxian map.
Yes.
And we do enjoy to have alternative names for alternative places, if only to confuse people.
Yes, it's a lot of fun when somebody goes to a place and then they talk to the locals and they have no idea what the adventurers are talking about because they're using some bizarre colonialist names.
Let's see, hang on. Jan Giesenberg is asking if there's still day and night, and if you have any thought put in how that works. Now, as I understand it, there are day and night. I know that it's obvious to me. And we have several sort of conflicting reasons for that.
Yes. The living on this world should feel the same as if you're a medieval peasant living in a medieval world on Earth. The facts of why the world works the way it works are different. And much like the medieval peasants, the players often don't know. So like you said, you have conflicting theories on why.
Yeah, because we have run a Christmas special.
Yeah.
Where the players went into the Feywild to save the sun.
And the sun was a Fey, like a person.
Yeah, but we've also never again referenced that and never again implied that the sun necessarily depends on a Fey entity. But we've never contradicted it either.
Yeah. So hang on. Modi Forest. Not named after Narendra Modi.
Frigidin Gard. That is a tough one. Frigidin Gardes. Is this map primarily for DM reference, or do the players have free access to it? We have free access to it, and we use it extensively. The sort of most immediate thing to reference on it is just the hexes, because they represent 24 miles across, and that's broken down intentionally to be the distance you can cover on horseback in a day.
On horseback in a day, or walking along a road, either one.
Right.
So this is 3 pixel tall letters. These are not legible unless you walk all the way up to the map. So Magnus, you are worth 3 pixels.
Hey, I'll take that.
Do you want to be the Magnus Archipelago? Is that?
Holy hell! I get many islands.
Yeah, you get an archipelago.
Oh my god.
Do you think Hjalti will still be our friend after this?
You know what? I'll be the archipelago, and some of the islands can go to our friends.
Oh wow, that's generous. If we ever run an adventure there, I'll.
Yeah.
The font doesn't get small enough for the other friends.
I can be 3 pixels, and they can be 1.
Yeah, there you go. Magnus Archipelago. All right. We've been live for 30 minutes, and we have named 1 archipelago.
Hey, look, mapping is a slow, deliberate process.
That's how you end up with names like Trouty Bay.
And Woodby Bay, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Southmost Isle.
Southmost Isle, the island most to the south.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into Valor. Where do you want to start?
We can let chat decide. Can we put a poll up?
I have no idea.
How does that work? Is this oppression?
It's certainly a form of oppression, yes.
Straw poll. Create a poll. This is watch Daði make a poll. Where do we start? Option 1, Drazak Duel. If we start with Drazak Duel, that's Orkland, and there's not a lot for us to do there. We might finish up a Drazak Duel, but I don't know if it's going to be a lot of input from everybody. We could do the Aeriid, which is the desert to the south, a sort of Egyptian-style desert kingdom. Or we can do Ergolia, which is this nomadic horse people up here. And I have no idea. Like, those two are very barren at the moment. We have very little in here. But that means you have more input, but we're not going to get very far tonight. So that's the sort of give and take. Straw poll, copy, and into chat. Lots of South Bend or North Bend cities here, named after the bend in the river. Yeah. I love giving the boring English names.
To answer Gabriel Garuli, we don't attempt to provide a scientific explanation for weather, if that's what you mean. In the campaigns where weather is relevant mechanically, Daði uses a random table.
Yeah, I can show you.
But we have saved wind and rain as well in that same Feywild campaign.
We're just earth and fire short of remembering September.
That's true.
Roll for weather. So I have... Is there any spoilers up here? No, I think we're fine. I have a chart, and these are the months in my world, all 12 of them. And I roll 2d6, and it tells me what kind of weather we're having. And they have an effect on hex crawling, because I use hex crawls in my current game. So there's a whole bunch of these. And it's fun if you roll on it every day, and then you describe the weather changing over the course of the day or whatever. And so far we've gone over 1 month transition, and I don't think the players have noticed that the weather has changed significantly between those 2 months. But I think they're going to be able to slowly feel it. So I kind of like the idea of rolling randomly for that. Hi, Trek Heroes, welcome.
Man, I absolutely had no idea
That I was rolling.
No, that it changed with the month. That the
Really?
table was on a month-by-month basis. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wrote up this whole thing, so that hopefully over the course of time you will eventually realize it doesn't rain as much anymore, because it is just highly unlikely that it will rain more, but it can still. Yeah. What program am I using for DM notes? It's Obsidian. We have a whole video on Obsidian. You should go check it out. Frigid.
Yeah,
frigid
absolutely.
Cortez. All
All right.
Straw poll. How do I monitor the straw poll? How does straw poll work?
You go to show results.
Man, you're so smart.
Jurassic Duel and the Aeriid are currently tied. Now, you didn't include the Andrian colonies in here.
No. Actually, that might have been a better place to start. We could have actually gotten them finished. We could have started and finished them.
I see.
Anyway. It's updating. Oh, hang on. Folks are chiming in. Look.
Oh, yeah.
So few votes. If one person votes, it shifts the whole thing. Your vote matters, everybody.
Each vote right now is exactly worth 5%. According to the... Oh, they ruined. Yeah, they ruined it.
Kiara Love asks if I have a way of coming up with names. I have 3 methods I use. I love talking in threes. It seems so rigorous. Method number 1 is I think and then I make up a word. That one's the least scientific. Method number 2 is I go to fantasynamegenerators.com and meet our friend Emily, every DM's best friend. And method number 3 is I open Google Maps and I zoom into the country that I think it's analogous to, and I go find small towns that I've never heard of. Because that way my players probably won't have heard of them either.
This does
Runehammer,
result
welcome to the
in
show.
us visiting the town of Soda Springs.
Yes. Which occasionally players go, hang on, I saw a Tom Scott video about this. Runehammer, welcome. There's so many dungeon tubers and YouTubers in chat.
Oh, yeah. Runehammer did ask earlier how much play has this world seen. Seems well worn. It is indeed well worn. You've been playing in this world for 10 years or so?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so what are the results saying now? It is still a tie between the Aeriid and Jurassic Duel. I think, unless more votes suddenly pour in, we should just break that tie.
I think
for
we
the
should do the
Aeriid.
Aeriid. Yeah. Because if I go in here, what I'm mostly going to do is transfer stuff from a map that it's not going to be as good TV. So I think we're going to go for the Aeriid because it's mostly tied right now, and I think that's going to be a better show. Oh, hang on. 14th vote came in. Listen, we don't even have to use the executive powers.
Exactly.
We just stop the count.
So I want it to be made clear here to everyone. You were presented with 3 options, where in reality there were 4, except one of the 3 wasn't even a real option, because it was in fact a bad option. So we are going to the Aeriid,
Yes.
regardless of future votes.
Yeah. Very succinct. So the Aeriid has this huge thing called the Aeriid Desert, which we're not going to put anything in. We're going to put some of these hill icons in it eventually. And it's got Woodby Bay, which I believe... Apologies. Which I believe is so named because were the conditions different, this could have been the center of a whole empire. But they were not different. They were suboptimal. There was no water. No water, no life. Indestructible, yeah, that's how you do it. You zoom in on rural Britain or England, and you see something weird, and you're like, what is Horndleby? And then you put that in your world. What do I use for the icons on your like towns and forests? Well, let's do that. Let's stencil in something. So, where do we want to begin? We're not going to do another straw poll. Hang on. Magnus, what do you think? Should we start central or should we start rural?
I think we're best off starting in Razamal.
Yeah. Okay.
And working our way out from the capital, the southern tip. Like it's both beneficial in being the cultural center and in terms of being in a geographic extremity.
Yeah. So this is the Horn of Valoria. It is the southernmost end of the continent, and there's a huge metropolis here, Razamal, which used to be the center of the Aeridic Empire during the Age of Empires, not the game. And my players have been there, and I think I know the name of a town here somewhere, based on the old world map, but I don't know if I ever said it out loud. Maybe I did.
They did sail around the Horn of Valoria and go to a town on the west shore of it, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, they did. So
find that.
Well, let's see if we can find.
Actually, if Hjalti is in chat still, do you have any notes from the Aeriid campaign where you were?
Here's the original Photoshop file, by the way. I just the JPEG of it.
What's his name? Raxus.
Hagios.
Hagios, yes, where you were Hagios Raxus.
This is the file that got corrupted. You can see it's way harder to read. Wouldn't put this up on my wall, but it got the job done back in the day. Here it is. Basel. There's also Kafele. Lukatara. I think we have Lukatara on here already. Yeah. Lukatara now. See? Small retcons.
Yeah.
Basel is here.
Yeah.
So for some reason...
I think it was Kafele?
Kafele? It might have been. So when we go into our brushes here. And I usually start with towns and then try and figure out some of the other details afterwards, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But sometimes I start with rivers. So I pick the thing that inspires me and I start there. There's no reason to have a system, and if it bugs you. We could do rivers. I assume there's a huge river that runs through this entire place, because that's how Egypt works, actually. So let's do that. Let's make a huge river that goes through this place.
Oh yeah, make Orithon's River Nile.
Yeah. Now we know that there's a person named Nile.
We do.
She's probably not named after the river.
Unlikely.
So how I do rivers is I go find the river on this map over here, or the color of the river.
That campaign seems to have been before the one note, so no notes for us, unfortunately.
Tragic. And basically this is just a layer with a stroke on it. And I grab a brush and I draw, and it creates this sort of shape on it. And that'll be that. So I'll go in. And I know that 5 is quite wide. Maybe it's a 3. Or it might be a big, huge river. Yeah, why not? And it could go through like that. So we'll put some smoothing on it. And I have to click some button that lets me smooth. Let's click the smooth button. Smoothing. There we go. Do we want to figure out where it starts?
We could do that. Now the Nile famously was very hard to pin down a starting point for historically.
Yes. Yeah, there's a. I know this because I watched Top Gear.
Well, you gotta learn history from somewhere, and Top Gear is a remarkably good place for it, honestly. No, I was gonna say this is having that river run all the way down down the Horn and into the sea by Ras Amal is a really wonderful reminder of the paradox that is New Orleans.
Yes.
And how it justifies all of a world builder's worst decisions.
New Orleans is a world builder's best friend. If anybody critiques your map, tell them to go Google New Orleans and then come back to you.
Yeah.
So there's a thing here called the Kawadi Sink. And
Okay.
I know one of the places the Nile theoretically could have sprung up is that there's a huge basin, isn't there, that in Egypt.
In Egypt, well, it certainly didn't spring up in Egypt because it goes
Oh,
through Sudan as well.
Okay,
But it might have
Hang on.
sprung up. I honestly, I'm not well versed in this.
you didn't watch the Top Gear special.
I didn't watch the Top Gear special. It's true. It did spring up. It does originate from somewhere around Lake Victoria, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's what the Brits will tell you.
Ah, well, of course.
Yeah, here's Lake Victoria. This is in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. Big lake.
Yes. So Lake Victoria, the Nile begins in the rivers that flow into Lake Victoria. It says.
Right, yeah. Because then there's also these two lakes, and if I remember correctly, there was some theory about one of these big lakes that they have. There's an underground river here as well, somewhere like these. This is all one network. It's kind of fascinating about Africa. Kampala.
The Kupark, you might be thinking of the Dead Sea, but that is absolutely something that would be very fun to have something analogous to, because it is a remarkable thing. Like do you know about the Dead Sea?
Educate me. No.
Well, it literally is. It is so salty. It is 10 times as salty as the ocean, or something like that. Like it's around 40% salt.
Yeah.
Which literally means you cannot reasonably breach far below the surface. So supposedly, even if I've never experienced it myself, but my aunt did go there, and she told me that laying face down in the Dead Sea, she could not physically turn around, just because of the saline level.
Where is this?
It's in well, the West Bank is thus named because it is the West Bank of the Dead Sea. If I'm not entirely insane, it is in Israel.
Let's see. Fascinating.
So absolutely, like, because throwing in, I think deserts are so devoid of interest in and of themselves that they magnify the interest level of every outlandish object placed within them.
Yeah.
So something like this would be a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, listen, we've got so the arid desert is a strange shape, isn't it? It's this. Hang on, ooh, it's this chunk up here, just south of Kergolia and Drazak Dul,
Yeah.
and then there is this kind of boxy lump that goes reaching into the arid. We could put some kind of Dead Sea or something in there.
No, Frigidin Gardas. She managed to escape the clutches of the Dead Sea, thankfully.
Did she have help? Did somebody have to go
I'm pretty sure yes.
flip her over?
Actually, I believe actually, had she not had help, she would have drowned.
Yeah, that, if she can't physically roll over, unless she could have like reached to a bank somewhere and then pulled herself up.
Yeah.
So there's something here called the Kawadi Sink. I assume that's important.
Okay.
Now, is the Dead Sea like the landscape around it. Like, presumably it's like farmable.
Ooh, no. Let's do some Googling.
How arid is the West Bank? And I suppose Jordan on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Because these look sort of like rough deserty things. I spend a lot of time looking at Google Maps, everybody. If you are interested in making maps, I encourage you to get interested in looking at maps, because the world is the most fascinating campaign setting there's ever been. It is endlessly complicated and beautifully diverse and interesting, and you can just get lost in every nook and cranny of it.
Bearcat, which salty lake is that? Now, Bearcat's saying they live near to a highly salty lake, and there's a lot of salt flats in the surrounding area. Now, salt flats are fascinating as well. And it's the sort of thing that, at least in terms of fantasy, I could imagine seeing in that transitionary area between the Aeriid and the Courage.
Yeah. So I wonder what we're doing with these two blocks here. I know you're watching the stream live, so you're catching this a little later, but
I am, yes.
But the Aeriid, I'll snip it and send it to you so you can follow along with me here. But the Aeriid is
All
such
right.
a wonky shape, the desert itself. So I
Yes.
wonder if we could justify those two boxy outcroppings north and then east of Mukatea.
Okay.
And make them make sense. Like, why is that considered the Aeriid? Why does the Aeriid claim it but not live in it? You know what I mean? Why is Nechet and Mukatea on either side of this chunk? Is it the desert, or is the desert exclusively north of it? And this here is a salty sea and a salt flat basin. I know that there's one other place where there are salt flats in Orathon, and that is an equally sort of dry, deserty place.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Raphael Masoni, we don't have many other options for reference, to be honest. Exactly. Like, it's kind of like that thing about photocopying a paper over and over again. Like, if all that inspires you is fantasy maps, you're gonna make a somewhat generic fantasy map. I don't think my map is not generic, by the way. It is only unique in that we play in it and we love it. But by going and venturing out and looking at real world maps, you tend to get inspired in a new way that you weren't expecting. Same with, if all that inspires your D&D game is fantasy, you end up creating a sort of photocopy of a photocopy kind of situation. But if you go and get inspired by something weird and unrelated to fantasy, and you find a way to make it fantasy, that's how you get brilliant new ideas. That's kind of what people were blown away by with when Game of Thrones was first on air. They were like, what if a political drama was a fantasy show? Obviously, there were books before then, but you know what I mean.
Now, Cookie Dude, the thing we haven't touched on yet is that another element of popular fantasy that has been stolen for Orathon, and this section of Orathon in particular, are the Tomb Kings of Warhammer Fantasy.
And we have to go get the trailer.
Yes. Well, the Tomb Kings, or rather the Ancient Emperors, as we call them in Orathon, are not a constant threat as they present themselves in Warhammer, but rather, as you kind of put it, this curse upon the land that rose up during the last war, and
was a problem.
Yeah, and does it remain? Now, this is an element of the history following the last war that we haven't really touched on, but do there remain like effects of that? Or is that something you'd rather not talk about?
I assume there remain effects of it.
Yeah, I imagine so as well.
In order for everybody at home to follow along, I'm going to mute you for a second, Magnus, and I'm going to play them a clip.
Go ahead.
You should be able to hear this.
Our true Blue King will show them. We do not serve. We rule.
How fantastic is that? That is so good.
Yeah, it really is.
Those guys were around in my setting about 30 years ago, and they were doing what we saw in that trailer. Copyright strike incoming. Well, you know.
Worst case, we'll edit it out of the VOD.
Yeah, I suppose.
I say we, I mean you.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. Ferdinand Gardes was saying you can justify anything. Perhaps the shape of the desert is the result of a magical plume, the result of an ancient megaspell run amok that disintegrates water drops that touch its corrupted soil.
Goddamn.
I
think it's just two deserts. I think there is the sandy desert and the salty desert. And
okay.
I think we're gonna have to find an excuse how to make that work. Hang on, let me go look up how I did the salt flats in Southern Ariston. Yeah, I just had these sort of squiggly lines.
Cookie Dude, there are no national borders on this map, but the duchy borders, I think, remain true both pre and post-war, like duchy and county and sort of smaller derivative borders.
Yeah, I tend to think of my borders kind of like CK, like Crusader Kings regions. Like you either control the section or you don't. Like after the peace has been signed, etc. Is this? Yeah, this is the same brush, I think. So I'm gonna go bring that back.
Spook Whoop, I won't address the great disrespect you've shown Cetra here by cutting his title short. But know that I feel it.
So we can do that. Alright, I'm not going to start drawing a salt flat right now. Basically, I think what we've decided is that the arid desert are two deserts. Hi, Todd. Is there oil in the desert?
Oh my
John, that is such a John question.
D. Kupark's idea there of salty sandstorms is something horrendous.
Oh, God.
I love that.
That's spectacular. I hate it.
So where are you thinking the line exists? It's roughly around Woodby Bay, if I'm understanding you correctly, or... Because I'm having a hard time following along with the visuals a bit.
I think it's there's this 90-degree corner up in Mugatea. I think it's around there.
Okay, and yeah, it's that early. So Woodby Bay, this would be a center of the Aeriid Empire, or was it another empire that you were referring?
It could have been. I don't know. Could have been the Aeriid Empire.
But it's rendered inhabitable not just by virtue of being a desert, but by virtue of being a salt desert.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was meaning probably on the east side of it.
Oh, okay. You were switching at that line. All right.
Yeah.
So
I think
specifically, there in the center.
Yeah, like where it says the Aeriid.
All right. Okay. So, but nevertheless, like something like Razamal and all of those things, what's the climate there?
Deserty still. I don't think we can change it that much.
So it's
Should
rather
it be the other
that
way
there's
around?
Depends. If you want the pocket salt desert there in the middle, that's cool. The way I was understanding you was that you were thinking a more like complete split into two enormous
That's cool.
different deserts.
So actually, no, that's cool because that also takes the south of the lands of the Attrition and south east of Brazati Bay, that area. It allows us to say that area is not deserty necessarily. That could be more just badlands or whatever. And then we've got this sort of starting at the south. We've got sandy desert, then up to salt desert, and then up to sort of tufty badlands, and then you get up to the lands of Attrition and Drazagdul, and then we got this gradient.
That's fun.
And Woodby Bay is just deeply salty. Oh, could we have one of those like huge deltas or something?
Sure, why not?
So then I want to move this big sign over here. Aeriid Desert. Can I move that big sign? Oh, God, everything is locked. So we've got this layer that I'm gonna chuck.
A major salt mining operation is exactly the sort of thing we'd be seeing appear in modern day Orthon.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's something the Ishtar or the Atroxians or whatever that's something they'd be busy with.
Yeah.
Oh hey, Emergent GM. Emergent GM is another fellow D&D tuber. There are so many of you all on the stream. It's kind of spectacular. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Is the salt a mineral that can be refined into a rare, potent resource like the spice? No, I think just salt is interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the rare and potent resource is salt.
Yeah.
I think like if we look at how in the modern world salt is practically worthless to us, and yet in the ancient world it was such a commodity. I think Orthon is going through that transition at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is another way of spelling out that interesting historical transitionary period from our world and bringing it into this world.
Yeah, because Orthon exists around the sort of industrial revolution at the moment historically. So it's interesting to me that way. There might be somewhere in there a rare tucked away secret spice melange kind of thing, but when I'm doing broad geographical maps, I often just like thinking about the basic common resources, and then if there is a special magical resource, that is the subject for an adventure where we zoom in and we go, okay, now we're doing this magic resource, and that is something tucked away in an old forgotten mine that's been there since the age of peace or age of war or something. You know, the distant.
Yeah.
Distant.
Now Bearcat's talking about the sea drying up, and I think that like their salt lakes being remnants from prehistoric inland sea, and I think even though we don't think too much about scientific principles when we're world building for Orthon, it makes sense to me that Woodby Bay perhaps was larger. The sea has receded at some point, and this salt is in some way from there, and then Woodby Bay, as you were saying before, becomes this salty bay.
Yeah.
Literally this pocket in the ocean of incredibly high saline level water.
And then I want to change the name.
Salty Bay?
Salty Bay. Isn't that a person on the internet?
Yeah.
The Dead Sea used to be called the Salt Sea by the Brits.
Oh, makes sense. Much less gripping name, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Those guys could learn a thing or two, right? Damn Brits. Seeing if I can summon John. What do I call this place? So there's the Aeriid Desert. Is this another desert? Do I use a smaller tag? Because I could also imagine referring to all of this area as the Great Aeriid Desert, but then there's a bit of it we think about as the bit with all the sand in it. You know what I mean? But there he is. I summoned John.
Oh, there he is. Yep, it worked. Neither did we, Fork. It just sort of happened.
It's kind of an accident. Well, this doesn't solve my lake issue. So I think we have to go back to the Kawadi Sink.
Yeah. So where is the Kawadi Sink? I haven't managed to spot it yet.
I'll try and keep the camera still for a second while I figure out why this city vanished.
There it is.
Oh no, I've moved all the cities on a layer. Oh Jesus. No. Alright, we're gonna have to we might be able to fix this just by me. No. Is this on the settlement layer? Jesus. Okay, hang on. Oh god, this might be the heaviest move in the no, it's fine. It's fine. We can just match it.
Blue Scribe, yes, we do have a channel Discord. It is available to all tiers of the YouTube memberships and Patreon.
Yeah.
People are just spamming undo in chat, but I'm assuming...
I think it was several moves ago. I think
yeah.
it's... I think we'd end up undoing until we finish the history on Photoshop. Alright. Razamal. I think there's a big river. I think it starts in the Kawadi Sink. This is how I world build, everybody. Slowly, sporadically, and then occasionally one pen stroke at a time.
So starting in the sink, it doesn't cover a lot of the sort of Aeriid empire.
Well, what if the sink is... So we could do sink is 3 rivers. Hang on, I feel suddenly you were about to pitch something.
No, I was not. I was setting you up to think of something, which you seem to have done.
So either the sink is the origin of 3 different rivers, and we have a bit of Trinity in that.
That's cool.
Which could be fun. Or we steal even more about the historic Nile, and we decide that the sink isn't the actual origin of the Nile, or whatever this river is going to be called. And it actually originates somewhere else, and it sort of passes by. But that leaves Mukatea, and I'd love the answer to be, why does the Aeriid manage to exist at all? Well, it's because of this trinity of rivers. There's something holy about that.
Yeah, I think if one of our options is both interesting in terms of the geological answers it provides, but also in terms of the cultural and religious questions it raises, let's go for that one.
Yeah.
So sort of immediately
also suggested just North Arid and South Arid deserts, and that's probably the kind of simplicity I'd end up going for.
Yes. Now, that makes me think that if 3 rivers originate out of the Kawadi Sink, then firstly we have to figure out what the Kawadi Sink is. But presumably one of them runs southeast towards Razamal, one runs west towards Mukatea, and one runs northeast towards Akaba? Akaba, is that the name?
Yeah, Akaba could be up here.
Yeah.
That to me then implies, if one of them is short and ends at Akaba, that to me implies that Nekhet was for a long time independent. It is unrelated to this river ecology.
Yeah.
And has its own river, the Tyriad, or the Tyrad, or however I say that word.
That makes sense to me.
So it's sort of more attached to the Kergolians, and then we've got a different national identity here for the Nekhetes.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, because you know the history of Egypt is deeply rooted in the Nile, and specifically ancient Egypt. Yeah. So I like that take on it.
This is also why I like using like analogous civilizations and that kind of thing, because it sort of makes sure you root these things in a kind of historical context, and that I think lends your kingdom or your maps or of verisimilitude. This is how I draw lakes. I stamp. I'm a stampy boy.
Now the Kawadi Sink could be something like deeply weird, because we're talking about, like, you know, geology. We're essentially proposing a lake that has 3 major rivers running out of it, which by Earth standards makes no sense. But Nick suggested you could have dry rivers that died long ago that go into the desert, and that's an interesting thought. Is there evidence of there having been other rivers out of the Kawadi Sink that have since stopped flowing?
Ooh.
And then culturally, you have this question of we pray. Our religion exists because we fear that if we do not
dry.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we don't do religion, we stop getting our water.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. That also implies to me that there is a historic kingdom out there that doesn't exist anymore.
Naigobi is in chat, going to
hi,
a
Naigobi.
Magic the Gathering and D&D party. Thanks for dropping by.
Hi, Naigobi. Yeah, we didn't let anybody know we were going to stream. I just texted Magnus, and I was like, I really feel like drawing a map right now, and I have been unable to draw this world map unless I'm in a call with people, and I was like, I might as well just go live with it, because my friends are in a cabin right now, and I wasn't invited, because they're all girls, and I'm a boy.
That is true. I was invited for dinner last night because I'm on the border, you know.
You're a little, yeah, you are a little girly.
I live in boyland, but I've got a toe
in girl land. That's funny. Not inaccurate though.
It could have been an ancient conflict with the shorter river you mentioned.
Yeah, so the Akaba, the city, could have had problems with that. See, immediately
Hey,
this is the hi Todd. Oh, he wasn't saying hi to me.
No, I wasn't saying hi to you. Just me.
Sorry, never mind, Todd. Now the fun thing about world building, we talked about this in a video, but this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that you put one thing into focus. In this case, drawing a map, and then you cycle the Ferris wheel, and when you're done drawing a map, suddenly you've got this thing about these rivers and this religion and these conflicts and this history, and now you put that into focus, and then you go back to the map, and then you cycle through, because you cannot, like, as soon as you open a map and you're going to start deciding where to put a lake or a river or whatever, you cannot start doing that without automatically thinking about all kinds of stuff. So all you have to do is get yourself started on one thing, and then you start realizing, why are the rivers like this? What kind of effect did it have? How has it affected people that live here? So that is the secret, everybody. You just start on one thing, and then the rest suddenly will become a lot easier. I think this is the biggest lake I've ever drawn. I'm going to shrink it in a minute, but I think it should cross into the Akrof Crags region instead of the Akman Wilds. And a bit up here. I like Lake Victoria's borders landed, the national borders landed on Lake Victoria, so I think I'm going to take inspiration from that. Oh, Todd also said hi to me. All right, hi, Todd.
That's good. It's good that those things are, clear.
Yeah. I was about to start YouTube drama with our friend Todd. Todd the Tri-Todd.
Have the religion make pilgrimages to ancient cities where water exists? Like, yeah, could there be ruins of ancient cities out in the desert somewhere where once they could live because the rivers did flow there?
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, were you asking if this is too big?
I decided it is too big.
I see.
I don't like it, so I'm going to cut it down. I don't think it should reach up here. So I'm just going to whoop and then redraw. It's also just too blobby, so I kind of want it to be more of like a...
Oh, sites, huh? Oh, yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oasis cities. Nick's talking about cities that have been completely cut off because they found a spring, so they're not attached
Yeah.
to the river system, so they're more culturally distinct.
I'm glad we're doing the Aeriid because it opens up these sort of fun questions as to why there is a city here. Because now that we've decided that it's an inhospitable landscape, we kind of have to ask ourselves, what's our excuse? Why are we
Yeah.
allowed to have a city here? That's a little closer to a shape I like. I'm gonna take out this chunk here as well.
Allison asks if we're going to draw from the Lawrence of Arabia scene, killing people over a water well. Now, I haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia.
That's cool, yeah. It's not cool that you haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, but that is a cool scene to reference.
You would have seen Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah. Actually, I saw it for the first time at
Mimnos, yeah?
Magnus, yeah. Yet another thing I stole from Matt Cole. Oh god, I'm drawing on the mask layer.
I don't know what that means.
Bad juju. No good.
All right.
So now we're just drawing a map. I'm glad there's two of us, because I think I would have been mostly quiet doing all this. See, now it's too long.
Welcome to the stream, everybody. This is an art piece we like to call The Consequences of Autism.
Hello, it's me. I'm the autism.
Samru suggests that maybe the existing cities have some kind of population descended from the refugees of these now extinct places. I think that's a fun idea as well. Cultural distinctions within larger cultural groups is exactly the sort of thing that goes under, like you've talked about scene rendering.
Yeah.
But it's very much world building rendering is a thing as well. Like you create a monolith culture. You say this is the Aeriid, and the people that live there are Aeridic.
Yeah, and they're all kind of like this. And
Yes.
when you meet an Aeridic person, they're kind of like that. And you ignore the fact that it's a monolith for a little bit.
But
Because
then you dive in.
You dive in, and that way your players have this experience. This is something I want to eventually make into a video. But there's this thing where there is like there's a horizon of understanding, which is you get to a point where you think, I understand something, and then you cross over the horizon. You discover there's a whole world you didn't know about. And that happens to us all the time in real life. And when that happens to you in D&D, you feel like it's real. So you get to a point where you're like, I know what the Aeriid is about. It is Daði's Egyptian analog. The Tomb Kings are there. Cetra does not yield. What does he say? He does not serve.
Yeah.
Easy. Simple. I got it. But then if I ever run an adventure here, or at any point we spend any time with Aeridic people, we will discover that there's a whole bunch of cultural complexity. There are these cities you guys are talking about. That's a cool idea. That are from these descended societies. We know that there used to be a society up in the desert now. I think that a river ran dry. We learn all these things, and there are these myths and histories, and suddenly the entire thing becomes rendered to us. This world-building rendering, like Magnus is saying. And then you start to feel like it's real.
Now, I do want to say, Todd did just say that a sink could also be called a wadi if you need other names. Now, we've already established that these names are Atroxian names. But if you were to rename that Kawadi Sink, we would have ourselves a situation where it is called the thing that it is, like Hill.
Torpenhow.
Yes.
Hang on. What's it's man. If I knew words, it would be over for the rest of y'all.
Yeah.
What's it? The thing where a thing is called what it is.
Yes, that thing. Let's see what our chat provides us with.
Yeah, I hate every shape of this. Alright, it's time to go look at a map. Do we just want to put the Dead Sea in here? Do we want to put Lake Victoria? Lake Victoria would be fun.
I think Lake Victoria is probably a more interesting one.
There we go. There we go. Here's how we do it. Just put Lake Victoria in here.
Actually, the Dead Sea might be more fitting just by virtue of the fact that it's quite long.
Yeah. I
Or
like
even
the
the-
Lake Victoria shape. It's got those horns
Alright.
in it, though.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because the Dead Sea has this top flat bit that it gets away with because it's the real world. But if I put that on a map, somebody's going to call me out on it.
That's fair. The other option would be the Caspian Sea,
Ooh, that might be fun.
but it is so much larger that you'd be drawing it at less of a detailed zoom level.
Yeah, no, let's do Victoria.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Who's voice number 2? This is Magnus. He's been a moderator in chat several times. He's the co-designer on all the stuff we're going to end up putting on the Patreon eventually. We're currently working on getting a class finished for next month for the Patreon. The Warlord.
Yeah. Which I've been playing now in our main campaign for a year almost? No.
That can't
It's
be
been a
right.
year, hasn't it? Almost, since we
Christ.
started the solos. It was in May.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you're level 3.
Yes. Hey, thanks, Dan. Are we using real-world languages for these names? I can't speak for these names in particular, but you sometimes do.
Yep. I think these are many of these names are Arabic. Sometimes I use Egyptian. I try not to just take a name and put it in without any modification a lot of the time, especially if it's a culture I'm not too familiar with. There's just something about that rubs me the wrong way a little. So what I'll do instead is I'll sort of make sure that I change it a bit or I do something to it so that I feel a little better about it.
Cooper points out that it's called a tautological place name.
Tautology, that's the word I was looking
Yes.
for. Thank you.
Yes.
I forgot what a tautology was. That's right, it's not like I write for a living. That much.
That's all right.
You may be watching this wondering, man, Daði, you don't need to stick to the borders that much. But then I'd have to think for myself, and I'd rather not, so this is what we're doing.
Could I suggest the Great Salt Lake? I think that's the sort of name we would actually put in Atroxia.
Yeah.
Because now we happen to... one of the great cartographers of Atroxia that made many of these maps in universe, like in universe terms, was a player character.
Yeah.
So we have actual justification for the system he used, and ultimately he generally tended towards when there was a culture there that they met, he would not tend to impose new reinvented names in a sort of colonialist fashion.
No, he was trying his best.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Oh, right. Of course, he was suggesting for lake shape. Our delay made it so that I had moved on to other things while we were still talking about that on stream.
Wow. Here we
Now
go.
we've started with Lake Victoria, so we'll keep that, but we'll definitely keep the Great Salt Lake in shape. That is a really interesting shape on a lake, actually. The Great
That's not
Salt
bad.
Lake kind of looks like a dagger.
Is it? Where? Hang on. That's in what,
Utah.
Utah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool. But
We can use that one elsewhere. We're
Okay.
totally fine with the one you've already put in.
Listen, it's been an hour and a half, and we've drawn one blobby lake 7 times.
Ah, yes, but think of all the subcultures we've invented.
That's true.
It kind of looks like Donkey Kong doing a roundhouse kick.
Hey, whatever you say, man.
Hang on. I need to... I can't see it. I'm sorry, I can't see it.
No, I don't.
All right, so should we do the rivers?
Yeah, let's do the rivers. So I could use a sort of jagged brush for the rivers, and maybe that would look better, but I've been doing it the other way for a couple of years now, so I'm an old dog, and this is the trick I know.
We have dabbled in conlangs, Dan, but it is, man, conlangs are the sort of thing that are easier to do for one culture than for a world. Now, if conlangs are the thing that drives you towards world building and that is what makes you interested in doing the rest of the things, absolutely go for it. But I don't think it is for either one of us.
No, we had some fun dabbling in one of them for a while. And,
Yes.
but it was so much work, and we were never close to having anything that was usable without continuing to invent it every time we wanted to use it. So
Yeah.
it kind of got to a point where we're just like, we'll just, like for D&D, it's just too much.
Yeah, exactly. Though I will say, it was very useful for naming places, which is the exact function that Dan is talking about.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most useful thing it did.
What I have done is decided when I'm naming places that certain words have certain meaning, and then repeated them, so that there's repetition in the place names. I get a bit of mileage out of that, and that saves me work, so it's worth it. If it created more work, I'd be doubting it. So, what can we do? That's not bad. So I've got smoothing on. I'm not actually this good at moving my mouse around.
Cooper asks, when it comes to the borders, do you draw the borders first and then make the rivers follow them? I know that most borders are defined by rivers, so I'm curious on how you decide where to put them.
These borders were drawn by me several years ago, and I shift them around and move them whenever I get to the detail map. So for instance, if I scroll up here, there's a river, and you can see it's completely ignoring the border, but that's because I haven't redrawn these borders yet. And when I do, they're going to follow the river. And sometimes, I draw mountain ranges. Like here you can see this border, and it sort of squiggles over these mountains. Eventually I'm going to redraw this border. I'm going to contour them to the mountains. And if I go hop over to another continent here real quick to show you, it looks way better because I've made it so that the borderline goes here, and then it goes up these mountain drawings so that it sort of insinuates that it follows the mountain, and then along this river over here, right? Or sometimes they cut over just sort of nonsensically. This time it's like putting a series of hills on one side of the border that was important to these people.
Thanks for pointing that out, Fork. It is literally just that I've been moving consistently closer to my microphone over the duration of the stream. I've pushed it back now, so this should be better. Now, I don't think it's wrong to say, Daði, that you tend to be a believer in the idea that nothing should stop you from half finishing a job.
No.
Like, if not knowing where the rivers are is stopping you from doing borders, then just accept that you'll change the borders when you do the rivers.
Yeah. You can always find yourself an excuse to slightly retcon the exact space at any point. Like, you get to a point you're like, oh, I really should have, made this border follow the river. Well, it's pretty close to it right now, or whatever. You can always do a little bit of work on that, just to. Right. Same with what we were talking about earlier with the with the cultural monoliths, you don't want to present a world that is definitively full of cultural monoliths, because it is overly simplistic view of people. But what you can do is you can start there, introduce it, and then delve deeper, and then every time you revisit it, you delve deeper, and then you've created this horizon where you're always learning more, and you're always getting closer and closer to some kind of definitive truth. And that is what it feels like to learn things. So
now,
here-
Cab, sorry, do you want to... You do the description first, and I'll keep this question for...
So I've drawn this river, and I switched the thickness of the brush twice throughout. So I started with a 5 pixel brush, and then a 4, and then a 3. And the reason I do that is because it gives me these sort of spots where the river gets thicker. And then I have the joy of creating a tributary. And I don't know where the tributaries come up. They come up somewhere. Sometimes I just stick them into some hills, or I make these little squiggles, and they go like that. And then they go like this. That one looks bad, so I Control Z, and then I do a little thing. And that just makes the river a little bit more believable to me.
So, Cab asks, do you guys have any advice for someone who hasn't drawn a map for their world or its location because they want to make landscapes that defy conventional geography? Like, I want to draw maps, but I've been hesitant for this reason.
I think you should start just with something. Like, if you keep waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect inspiration, you're gonna keep waiting until you're 60, and then like my neighbor kept waiting, and he this is a whole other story. You're gonna keep waiting until you're 60, and then you're gonna have a heart attack, and that's gonna be it. I had this neighbor who was always on his way to go have a holiday for the rest of his life. Like, he worked, like a good Protestant his whole life, and then when he retired, he was going to go to Tenerife and live the rest of his life there, and he had a heart attack at 65. That was it. And that is so tragic. Go live your life. Go, don't let anything stop you. You never know when you're going to get a heart attack, and that's going to be it. So, if you want to make a world, go make a world. If you want to go make a map, go make a map. Then, later on, figure out exactly the detail of what you want it to do. You can start with a thing, if you don't want it to have a conventional shape, go take a picture of your kitchen cabinets, or a weird puddle you saw, or a funky looking house downtown, and draw that, and then do it again, and then do it a couple of more times, and then eventually you're going to get to a point where you're happy with the stuff you make, but it's going to take you several reps, and as you keep putting those reps in, you're going to keep getting closer and closer to what you want.
Absolutely. Anthony writes fantasy. Yes, this is live, and it is Photoshop, not Wonderdraft.
If you're wondering if there's a system to how I decide what I'm doing, there's not. I just sort of draw things until something tickles funny in my brain, and then I know I'm done. I guess that's what happens if you do this a lot.
Oh yeah, this is fun. Just bunch of little tributaries off the Kawadi Sink.
Yeah.
Now you know where I am, visually.
Yeah. I'd moved on, but yes, exactly. You're having a funky view of this because you're looking at you're the only one who's looking at the stream delayed in the audio.
Yes.
No delay.
It is a unique experience, and I will treasure it. All right, so that's the first river. Now, in theory, if we are living in a world where 3 rivers define a culture, then we must therefore conclude that the rivers reference a cultural identity,
Yeah.
or even a sub-religious identity.
Yeah.
So if we've done the Amali sort of section of the Aeriid now, should we
Yeah.
do the next river, or do you wanna populate this area of the map first?
No, let's do the rivers, and then we can go try and populate Amolier, and get in on that a bit.
All right, let's do it. These are places in our D&D world, Anthony. It is Orthon. It is a world map that is used exclusively for the D&D games we've been playing now for 10 years.
They appear in the backgrounds of all our videos. If you're a fan of the channel, you would have seen them behind me. Whenever I'm yapping. Hang on. Here's
now
the
Fork.
video. That's the map in the background. It's huge. It's massive.
Fork is asking, how do you facilitate the world map on an adventure basis? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Fork.
Yeah, I don't know. So is this the Mukatean River? Now it's a bit weird, isn't it, that if there are 3 rivers and the Kawadi Sink is in Medinak? I guess that's how you say that. If it's in Medinak or Madanak, is that river running to Mukatea, or is that river, or is Mukatea unrelated to this original? Are Sakotep, Madanak, and Amolir, are they the 3 rivers?
I think it looks cooler if it runs all the way to Mugatea, personally.
Yeah, you're correct. That is the best excuse I needed. That is the only excuse I needed to make it this way.
Wonderful. Sometimes all you need is someone to say something that justifies you doing what you wanted to do anyway.
Yeah. So here, I'm drawing a river, and I saw that there's a border I could sync it up with, so I went, you know what, let's just sync it up with that border. Now, when I redraw the border, I'm going to make it follow this river here for a bit, and maybe I'll make one of these, maybe I'll make this line here straight instead or something. It's all about that rotational thing we were talking about, right? You start with the thing you're doing right now, and you put work into that, and then you just leave everything else for a bit, and then you rotate the Ferris wheel, and then you do the next thing, redraw the borders to match the rivers. Then you think about the cultures that came out from these 3 rivers that come out from the Kawadi Sink. Yep. Oh, I wanted to talk about all of these places have a local name and then a geographical feature in it. The reason I did that is because I think the Atroxians who made the map wanted to define these terms somewhat so that they could know which is what. If it was just Kawadi and Akraf and Barkal, and they'd get lost in the sauce, they'd be smoking their pipe going, what do you say? I don't, blah, 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 you know? Hip, hip, hip. So they added these chunks to tell each other, this place is all craggy, this place is the big sink, this place is these cliffs. And this also helps us, the predominantly white Icelandic dudes who are playing this, understand what it is that we're talking about.
Why you say predominantly dudes? We're almost 50% women.
Yeah, you're right. If the girls are watching in the cabin right now, they'd be mad.
They would.
I'm sorry, girls.
All right, let's see. So
It was a
clarification.
gender-neutral dude.
So there's this map. We are playing an adventure in this world. Does everybody have the map and the current group location? Is the map used often during play, or is it more like lore? Depends, but generally I would say we use the map very much if it is relevant. So if it is a campaign where geography and geopolitics or anything to do with our specific location in the world is relevant, we will use the map extensively. If the question of travel time ever comes up, the map is our go-to answer, no matter where we are in the world. And that's not just from Daði, it's we will open the map and count.
It's also on the wall, so if I mention a place, the players will sort of stop looking at me and go, look at the wall, and be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
which is probably the most common use case of this map.
Allison PLC asks, is your guys' style of play more like roll on a random table of encounters for deserts, or more like DM will do an encounter on the way we travel there?
We do all kinds.
We do all kinds. I would say in general, I would say tables certainly aren't part of our style of play. If you use them, it is as a assistive tool, not as part of our general style. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, so when we're talking about the weather, rolling for weather earlier,
Yeah.
I do not expose the table to my players. They know that I'm rolling dice because they can hear it, and they usually go, "What's the weather like?" and I roll the dice. But I will often roll the dice without them knowing, and then narrate the result as a part of the narrative of the game. So the random tables are not the heroes of the show.
Yeah. And part of that is just because of the way we play. We are all very... we're all very narratively minded. Like, we enjoy fantasy books or fantasy video games, like role-playing games, etc. And we prefer to be able to perceive what we're playing as a story in which we are the characters, rather than as too purely a game or a set of mechanical systems.
Yeah. Which means it sort of becomes the DM's job in games that you want to be heavily immersive. That doesn't mean that they aren't mechanical. It becomes the DM's job to sort of hide it with a bit of smoke and mirrors. Like, the table still exists. I'm just not talking about it. But sometimes we'll run a short adventure and it's got no hex crawling, no tables, no random encounters. I just know that, in the Metropolitan Murder Mystery adventures we sometimes run, I know that at some point I'm going to run a random encounter in the city, and it's only random in that neither I nor the players know exactly when it's going to happen, but I know roughly what the encounter is, roughly why it's going to happen, and we approach it in a situation that makes sense to both of us, us and the player, me and the players, depending on whatever the current situation is that's happening. But sometimes they don't occur, and I have to invent a new one on the spot if I want a fight to happen, or if we're getting to a point where a fight should happen. But that's much more prevalent in these shorter adventures where there is less time for us to go do a bunch of random bullshit.
Dan is asking about the outlets on the lake. As I was saying earlier, ultimately we just don't adhere to like or Earth-centric geological principles. This lake has 3 outlets. That is weird. You are correct in pointing out that's weird, but it is weird and interesting at the same time, and thus the fact that it's interesting supersedes the fact that it's weird, if you follow. I also want to highlight something.
We're not going to let reality ruin that for us.
Yeah. I want to highlight something Jabcab is saying. He says here, I want the players to take the world seriously and feel encouraged to have serious discussion about it, if that makes sense. It's just part of a larger conversation, but I just wanted to isolate this part of it because this is something we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Which is the believability of the world, the fact that we can believe in it and talk seriously about it as players within it is probably, to me, the single largest thing that makes me love this hobby.
Yeah.
The fact that I can sit down, even with you, who DMs this world, and talk about the politics of this world in a way that is rooted not in I wonder what you will decide to do, but I wonder what these people that only ever exist in your portrayal of them will decide to do.
Yeah. Because
I
don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just the way we talk about it is that there's this box, which is the world, and we don't know what's in the box until we're playing, and then we open the box, and it just so happens to be my job to tell you what we're all seeing.
Yes.
but we all know that I'm not lying to you. The thing in the box is the thing in the box, and you can have a look occasionally. But we all look in the box. But it is my job to say I'm seeing these things happen, and that is us looking into the world, and then we close it, and that's us stopping play.
Yeah.
And then you'll go later on. We'll be having dinner at your place or whatever, because we hang out a bunch, all of us. And you'll be saying, oh, I wonder, like you were saying, I wonder what the Triarch's exclave in the Aeriid is up to. And I'll be sitting there going, yeah, I haven't thought of that. Like, we've been mapping the Aeriid now for some time, and we have not touched on the fact that somewhere in there's probably a group of lion people, but we'll get there, right?
Yes.
That is something you guys made up, and now it's my job to try and figure out to do something with it, but at the same time, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm probably going to continue to listen to what you guys think it's up to, and you'll discuss it in character, and that all feeds into this thing that is the box that is real. We believe in the box.
If you want some work PTSD, Allison says the DM is just the render, not the engine. But everyone can analyze the engine.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is a good analogy.
Fork also mentions the believability of a world is at least 50% dependent on the player. You have to come from a place of wanting to believe a fantasy in the first place. As a player, you have to commit first, I feel. And you're not wrong. We've talked about a little bit. It's been a while since this came up, but a video topic that you could do is the idea of the role of the player in making games work well, because you talk a lot about the DM's perspective, but ultimately there's a lot of player buy-in that's required.
Yes, and if you want to run a game like the one I run, the ones you see run by those professional DMs on the internet, if you're a big fan of Matt Mercer or Bradley Mulligan, the thing nobody's talking about is how, or not enough people are talking about, is how great those players are, and you really do need spectacular players to get away with this kind of stuff. And it's not enough for them to believe in everything you're saying. They have to believe in the world, and they have to believe that they are an equal collaborator in the world. So you have to give them the world. If you're running WotC's Curse of Strahd, at the end of Curse of Strahd, spoilers, they tell you Strahd cannot die. Ravenloft will rejuvenate, and eventually the dark powers will manifest Strahd once again to continue his punishment. That is a bit evocative. It is useful for WotC because it keeps Strahd alive. But I let my players kill Strahd, and Strahd is now dead. And the nature of what it means to be a vampire was forever changed. And why and how it was changed, we have not delved into yet. That is a Tetris piece that has come down, and I have saved it, put it into the corner. And eventually we will grab that piece and we'll go have a look at it. We'll look into the box, and we will start that discussion of explosive creativity that happens when we're all at the table together. But it's not until we do that we figure it out. It is not up to me to invent an answer out of the blue and then present it to the players.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Here we go. We got 3 rivers.
Yeah.
This looks real funky, but I love it. I don't know how to draw a dead river. I don't know if I should, or if I should just somehow indicate
I don't think
it.
you should. I don't think you should at all. I think the way you indicate it is you put a ruined city out there, like you did with Vanagar or something like that.
Yeah.
And then if someone asks, why is there a city there? Then that's the answer. Now we have to decide, where did that river originally run? And the obvious answer to me seems to be like northwest all the way out to like Woodby Bay eventually.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
I wonder if the kingdom that used to exist is the one that's like here in the middle.
Here, indeed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The where it says, oh god. Oh,
hang on, I'll see it in a few seconds.
The map's escaping my grasp.
Oh no. Yeah, I think I'm seeing you talking about it now.
I've lost all control of Photoshop.
Oh no, that's not good.
All right, there we go. Where it says the Aeriid in the lower
Yeah.
South Arid Desert.
That makes sense to me.
I think that's sort of where a kingdom used to exist, and we can put a city there. But right now, let's have a look at Amalier. We've got this little horn of Valoria down here. Dead River to Barkal Cliffs. No, I think the Dead River goes into the desert. It is why there is a desert there. So there used to be a kingdom that thrived on that river, but there is not anymore. And then our answer to why aren't there kingdoms in this desert is because these rivers make the land at least somewhat inhabitable.
Yeah.
So the Horn of Valoria, the Bara Delta. Delta? Hang on. Oh, dick.
I think you can get away with renaming that.
I think so too.
Because I for sure did not remember it was called that. And it tends to be the case that if I don't remember something, there are only 2 players that might remember it.
That's true. That's the council of the meat wiki that you have to consult when I want to change something. I'm like, all right, listen up, meat wiki. Do you remember Bara Delta?
Hawkeye, this is just Photoshop with some stencils.
Should we get text on screen?
No, it's all right. He did specifically apologize for this being a stupid question because he just joined. So
I see. That's all right, Hawkeye.
You're all good, Hawkeye. Don't worry about it. Let's see.
Bara Delta. Hang on, what do we call it? What else? I don't know. We can leave it for now. We'll figure it out.
No, Fork, you're totally right. This is something that's going to dry. No, actually, sorry. You are wrong because rivers do become thicker with time because more tributaries join them. And so closer to the ocean, they do grow wider. Because they are flowing from the lake, and they start small and they grow wide.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, rivers join, they get thicker. If you go look at the Nile, it gets real thick, but where it meets the Mediterranean, but it's real thin the further up you go. So, the first question, looking at this thing, the first question that comes to mind is, why is Razamal where it is, and why isn't there another city somewhere else? And the answer is the river. The river flows out to this particular point. Now then the question becomes, why does the river go this absolutely insane route? And we'll put some hills in and mountains and somewhere so that we understand that there's elevation that is affecting it. So presumably, there is like a valley here, right? We don't have to do too much of that, but we can do a bit. Mm-hmm. And then I want to know why there's another town here on the other side. Remember that we looked at Basel. You can see all the names are different, by the way. All the names are different. I retconned this many times, and my players are none the wiser because by the time they get to play somewhere, I add a bunch of detail. I change the rendering. I move stuff around. And then a new truth comes to exist. Because the truth when you play is more real than the truth at any other point. That is the truth that matters. What happens at the table. Sometimes players will, out of character, ask me questions. How does this work? Or how is this thing? And sometimes I'll make the foolish mistake of answering. And then later on they'll say, you said. And I'm like, when did I say this? Did I say this in character? Did you roll a history check and know it? And they were like, no, it was at Thanksgiving, and we were all having dinner together, and you mentioned that this might work like this. And I'm like, wow, that's not canon. That's just a fan theory. It's not real until we're playing it.
It's just the DM's fan theory.
Yeah, the DM can have fan theories.
Absolutely.
We are both people who write creatively for a living, and I have fan theories about why certain things are the way they are in our game that we're making.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they're not going to become real because it's a hassle, or there are disagreements or whatever, but I have my ideas and they can just stay mine. So we know there's a town here somewhere. We're going to have to set the brush correctly. This is the bit. Somebody asked, how do you put the towns in? Well, if you're still here, almost 2 hours later, this is how you do it. I go grab a brush. This is no different than the other brushes here at the top, except somebody has made them to look like towns. And then I go plop. And then it's too thin for my taste. So what I actually do is I go plop, plop. And there we go. There's a little town. Is there a better way to do this? Probably. You can use Wonderdraft. A lot of people are talking about Wonderdraft or other stuff in the chat. I don't know how those things work because a long time ago, when I started making this world, I did it in Photoshop, and now I live with the consequences.
Cooper X223X asks, Daði, do you ever have secret areas on your map that you only include for yourself so your players don't know that place exists? I would say Loggers County is a perfect example of that, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, there is a forest. Hang on, let me go place here. I often like putting a big town next to the city. First off, that is how towns tend to come up in real life, but also because players won't go to it. you can very easily say there are loads of big towns out there. Most of them are close to the big city, and the players will go, sweet, we're going to go to the big city. So you don't have to worry about those towns too much, in my experience. But they make they make everything more real. So I'm gonna swish over here to. Oh, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have just talked and not moved the map. But I have the map, so. No, I'm sorry. This is a dangerous mission. There are going to be random encounters, and I'm sorry, Ollie, you missed the shout out. Yes, yeah.
Description should do it, huh? Classic.
Hang on, I muted myself.
Oh,
there
classic.
We go. Alright, I'm going to start over. So to answer your question about are there secret areas of the map? Yeah. This here is Loggers County. It is called the Elmwood, this forest, and the entire forest is going to look like this when I put this map on the wall, but this is not what the forest actually looks like. It has a whole bunch of areas in it that I'm not going to say out loud because Magnus can't know about it, but it's got different geographical features. It's got different settlements. You've already found one of them, Magnus. You were talking about Soda Springs.
Yep.
And Soda Springs is not on this map. And I now see that somewhere along the way I've moved all the rivers slightly.
Oh, man.
Finish my point. Yeah, can you guys hear me now? It says back. I think you can hear me now.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of areas in there that I'm mourning the rivers. There's a whole bunch of areas in there that they don't know about and that they won't know about. They're gonna have to play the adventure. So wildernesses are great for this, and sometimes we'll be playing and they'll discover something new, and I'll just have to add it to this map. Like they might discover that there's a whole city somewhere, and I'll just have to go add it to the map. Okay. Alright, I'm not gonna get bogged down in fixing these rivers right now. Oh my god, the entire town's up here. Oh my... Ah! Okay. Oh, hang on. It's a new change. I can Control Z it. Control Z.
That's good. It happened on your way up there.
Oh, that was all the towns, but the rivers are something else.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well.
Dickens. It's not that impossible. It's a little bit of a hassle, but I'll be able to fix it. Replacing towns.
Hawkeye asks, this map feels like a huge labor of love. As a guess, how long did it take to create all this?
In hours? Like, the answer is years.
Yeah.
It's just not a very useful answer because, I've been doing other stuff. Sometimes I sleep.
But if you tried to give it a guess in hours.
This one's here in between some rivers. I don't know. So if the detail map for Atroxia is about 5 or 6 sittings, each of those sittings is, 4 or 5 hours. Multiply that by 3 for the other detail maps, and then triple that. What are we up to?
Sorry, I was reading chat.
5, 6, 3, 270 hours, give or take.
Yeah, I was gonna say 200-300 hours. Would sounded like it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Jack Davidson asks, "What's keeping the lake full enough to feed the rivers?" That is precisely the question that has spawned religion around the lake, the rivers. We're not going to try and answer it. It is the sort of thing that might well wind up having an actual answer, but fundamentally is rooted in mystery.
And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Put
Jake,
it down here.
Yep.
Where else do you want towns?
Where else do I want towns?
Put another city down. Like, Razamal doesn't have to be the only city up here. Like, this is the capital region. Should this be a city instead, or maybe not?
I don't know.
Maybe there should only be one city per each of these kingdoms we were talking about. Maybe Razamal is the only city.
That might be. I think that's fine. Like
Razamal's
the
Aeriid.
City? Sorry, what's that?
Razamal being the only city?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah. Because we associate the Aeriid with Razamal, Mukatea. Even Mukatea is an area, not even a city. So yeah.
Yeah. When I say towns, by the way, everybody, I'm meaning like these big towns. Like I think they're like 20,000 people or something. And then we're gonna have smaller settlements, and we're just gonna start with the towns here for this region. I think 3 is fine. We're gonna put a couple of these different symbols. This one here is gonna be a more sort of middling town size.
I want to get to a couple more questions we have in here.
Sure.
How many worlds do you make? Like, do you try to have all of your campaigns in the same setting, or make a new world for each group? I can answer this. It's very much we play exclusively in the same setting, and in fact, we really just have one super group of 12-ish players. But then there's no campaign with 12 players. But our main campaign has 7 players, and then we have these sort of cycling other games that involve various players at different times. But they all take place in the same setting, and they all feed into the same timeline of that setting.
Yeah, and it's important to note that because it's one super setting, it is kind of like a bunch of different settings.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I think I could run a 5-year campaign in the Aeriid, like just based off of the stuff we've been talking about right now. Like in this stream, we could easily spend years in this setting and figuring out all the little details out of it. I'll delete this actually.
D. Kupark's talking about, like, imagine there was one point in the sky that always pours and it never moves. It's just always pouring down in one particular spot. I think that's exactly the sort of thing that might well be the reason behind the Kawadi Sink. I don't think it's the sort of thing we're going to answer tonight, because we're just doing the map and finding the sort of base level explanations we need for the shape of the world. But it is very much one of the things that might be the reason. A couple of people have also been asking how often you update the physical map on your wall. Now, you haven't updated it yet.
No, I've never updated it.
But I guess the question would be, how often would you have wanted, in a perfect world, to have already updated it?
I would have wanted to finish this update I've been working on a year ago. I thought I could do an annual update, but I've not been that dúlegur.
So right now you're just a little bit late for your second annual update, having skipped your first annual update.
Yeah.
So a few more of these streams, and maybe you can do a second annual update.
That would be fun. I want to explain my reasoning here a little bit. So I'm just putting towns down, and you can see I'm getting progressively smaller symbols for it. And I'm trying to create these sort of density centers of like there's a city, and then towns, and then smaller towns, and then villages. And I'm also trying to make sure, because the hexes are 24 miles long. This is why they're 24 miles long. I'm trying to make sure on 24-mile hex, it takes somebody a day to go from one town to another. If they're walking along a road, so marching, which means that if there isn't a town when they get to a new hex, they have nowhere to sleep. So if this civilization is ancient, there would be towns everywhere on each hex that people walk or travel. And what you end up with is kind of like a point cloud. In order to go to Razamal from this town up here, you go from this town to this town to this town to this town, beep, 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 right down the thing, hitting each point along the way. You could ride through a town and skip it, so that's maybe why this town is small. There's a big town here, there's a village, and then there's a sort of small town. Well, if you're on a horse, if you can afford a horse, you skip that town. And if you can afford a river barge, you could skip several towns. You know what I mean? So that's why there are these centers, and then they thin, and then there are centers, and they thin. And then you create these sort of systems of points of light where there are connections throughout the wilderness. It isn't a network like in modern, America or whatever, where you can sort of go in any direction and hit a town. But it becomes these sort of strings through which people walk and travel. And then it becomes our job to answer, how come there aren't towns in every hex? How come there isn't a town in this hex? I don't know yet, but we're going to figure it out.
What if you want to run a campaign that goes against the pre-existing lore, asks Potato Man the Third.
I don't think I've been in that situation.
Well, I have some propositions for examples.
Okay.
There was a time where at work I had a post-it note on my desk for a very long time on which which was just written, "Everybody has guns and I don't know why."
Yeah.
And this was a question you had posed because you wanted to run a Wild West game.
Yeah.
And you didn't know how you were going to justify that.
That's true, yeah. So the answer was, one of the players in the game is going to be playing a gunsmith, and he made all the guns that are in the game. And now I have justified why the players get to have guns in the game. And then I was like, but hang on, I want the bad guys to have guns too.
Yep.
But I don't want everyone everywhere to have guns all the time. So why do the bad guys get to have guns? And I decided that in this culture, in this wilderness, in this Wild West area, there is gunsmithing culture. People take great pride in inventing new firearms that don't really work. And they fiddle with them, and they tweak them around, and they play with them, and they really only function for those people. And then a few days will go by, and they'll get used a couple of times, and then they'll break down. So they're unique to that area. And now I've excused it. Hawkeye, thanks so much. Sorry for the short visit, but it's gone midnight. Yeah, it's gone midnight here too. I just wanted to pop in and say hi. I really love the content from yourself, your girlfriend, and the lovely new mystery voice. Best wishes. Thanks so much, Hawkeye. This is Magnus. He's a good friend. He's a good friend of me. We've been co-writers for what were you saying? 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years this April.
Oh my God. That's a second grade kid right there.
It sure is. Don't say that. Don't say that. We still haven't even published the damn thing. We can't pretend it's gone to second grade by now.
Oh, God.
There was another question here I wanted to get to. And thank you so much, Hawkeye. I have to reiterate.
Yeah.
Um,
Hang on, I want to add
Yes,
one more
go
thing
ahead.
to that, to the gun thing.
Good night, Hawkeye. Go ahead.
Good night, Hawkeye. By the gun thing, now that I've come up with that excuse, I am permitted to still have there be ancient Egypt land. They don't have gun culture or gunsmithing culture, right? They don't have that that same thing. They've got other stuff that they're thinking about. They're thinking about where the water comes from and how come the basin splits 3 ways. They don't know about that, and that's what they're obsessed with. And they've got religions about it, and they've got magic, and so they don't have gunsmithing culture. And now you've got 2 settings in your 1 setting. So shoot, what was your next question?
Firstly, Koal Khan was asking whether you're using a Photoshop resource pack. These are a few stencil packs that I think we're hoping to try and link in the description.
Yeah, that would be great.
But they are, yes, they were found basically just by Googling fantasy Photoshop, geographic fantasy Photoshop stencil packs.
Yeah.
The next question I wanted to get to was, how is the physical map put up? Is it in multiple smaller parts? Is it plastered on?
It's 2 big foam signs, and there's a seam around the middle, roughly splitting the Aeriid just above the line where the desert is. So I think here is where the seam is. If you saw my brush just there. Those signs are foam signs, and then my dad has made a film that he layers on top of that, and we put it up that way. And when we replace it, we're just going to put a new film on top of the foam plates.
For context, Daði's dad is a professional printer.
Yeah, he owns a signage and advertising company. It's Photoshop, Franco. This is it. I've just got these stencils. I'm moving them around, and then I plop them down. And Photoshop isn't specifically good at doing this. The power of software like Photoshop is that it can do anything. Which means, if you want to make a map in it, you have to put a bit of work in. Because it doesn't do anything for you. You can just do anything, right? Any picture, right? So I'm a big fan of Photoshop because I use it for when I'm doing when I'm doing thumbnails, or when I need to make composites, or when I'm drawing maps, or when I'm drawing other stuff. I'm not sponsored by Adobe. Feel free to buy whatever software makes it easy for you. Photoshop is not going to hold your hand, but it is powerful, and then you can do anything with it, which is why I use it.
Actually, I should probably ask you that. Are links enabled in chat at all? Because someone was asking if he could post links to a repository of brushes.
You can give that a go. Emergent GM also sent me some message about a map pack. Oh, those look great. I should have opened them ages ago. These are fantastic. Here you go. We'll just put them in chat as well. You can feel free to post your link if it works. I don't know if they do. I don't know how to change it if they don't.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
So I could now just go dot houses along, or house icons along the river. Or we could go naming towns and give a little insight into how that works.
Yeah, that might be a pretty decent transition. It's very, Yeah, I'm sorry to say the link didn't. Oh, hang on, I'm not in live chat. I may be able... No, I cannot see your link, Cooper, even on the moderator view. So...
If no, Cooper's not a member, I was going to suggest he could send you a Discord message with it. But
yeah. But he's posted the name, KM Alexander, so by all means, if you guys are interested, look that guy up. Now, Daði, there's a bit of a conversation just about the price of Photoshop. I'm curious, have you tried something like GIMP, which is being, or GIMP, if you want to be safe in saying it?
You think YouTube's going to come after us? It might be. No, I haven't. I'm about to reveal some of my privilege, but my dad runs this printing company. And as a result, I have had access to the Adobe suite since I was a wee bairn. And I've been able, like, I was playing around. My first ever experience of, like, using a computer was playing around with Macromedia Freehand, which was later bought and joined in with Illustrator. And then I went to school in multimedia studies, and I studied a whole bunch of stuff, including how to use Photoshop. And so at no point did I not have access to some software like this. So I never tried other things. I always had professional software at hand, and I played with that ever since I was, like I said, a kid.
Now, people are posting all sorts of alternatives in the chat, and I absolutely encourage people to check those alternatives out.
Yeah. I am certain you don't have to spend a ludicrous amount of money or give your money to Adobe if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Loads of people find the whole subscription model thing off-putting, and, power to you. Do what you want. Right now, I'm moving the big titles of everything so that they're not blocking the villages, but I'm trying to make sure they are still obvious to what they refer. So I moved Amolier. I moved Amolier. But I try to make sure I put it on the border so that it is still obvious that it applies to both the Horn of Valoria. I think it's going to be the Horn of Valor, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
I changed it recently. And also the Barrow Flats. Hang on, I'm going to have a little sip.
Justin Rominger is bringing up Incarnate. Incarnate is a wonderful tool that Daði uses for a bunch of town maps.
Yeah, I've got a video on that coming out soon.
Hey!
Not on doing... Oh, bang the table. Not on doing parchment-style world maps. I've got a video on how to use it for town maps. But it has Parchment World in it, and I looked at some pictures, and it looks a lot like my world map. So if you like this look, I encourage you to go check out Incarnate's Parchment World map style.
Very cool.
I don't know how any of the other bits of software work, but I'm sure they're good too.
Now, here's a question only you can answer. Nick Gilby asks, what made you choose to stick with Photoshop over Illustrator?
So the brushes are very useful. I also have just the painting brush and the squiggles and that kind of stuff is good because it draws pixels. Illustrator uses vector formats instead of pixel format, and that means that you can zoom in endlessly, which is great, but it also means that these icons and all these things wouldn't have had that look of like worn or tattered or whatever. So I ended up, I never really considered putting it into Illustrator. I also would not have had the parchment background. This parchment background that is on this whole map is some image. I just Googled, paper parchment, and I flattened it and copied it and like stretched it out over the whole thing. So now the whole thing has this vague texture to it. I don't know if I would have been able to do that in Illustrator because it uses vectors.
Agent Maelstrom suggests that maybe the player should steal the Horn of Valor, and it would be stolen Valor.
Oh, that's funny.
And I do want to say, this brings up a story because we recently ran a mega game, a pirate-themed mega game.
Yeah.
And one of the crews was a crew of turncoats from the Atroxian Empire. And their ship was a stolen warship called the Valor. Precisely because it was the stolen Valor.
Yeah.
So we're right there with you, Agent Maelstrom. That's what I'm getting at.
Great idea, yeah. One day I'll have a video of that mega game to show everybody. I'm gonna keep saying it out loud in stream so that I know that I've promised people a video of a mega game, and then I know that I'll have to deliver. I'm trying to look for Razamal in here, and I'm not finding it. There it is. D. Kubark, pen and paper. Yeah, like I drew the original version of this map in pen and paper. The only thing that happened was that I got paranoid I might lose it. So the good thing about having things digitally is you can put them on your Dropbox or your drive of choice. So now I'm going to put these names everywhere, and we're going to have to start naming things. Do we have to start naming things? Well, we could also start drawing mountains and stuff.
We could. Naming things does allow for some chat involvement. Oh, Todd's
See ya,
out.
try Todd.
See ya, Todd.
Yeah, you folks want to name some stuff? We're gonna need to find. God, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 names just for this one region, this one county.
Yeah.
This one old kingdom.
And we're going to want them to be names that evoke Egypt.
Yeah.
Evoke that sort of... probably even...
Arabic, kind of.
Yeah. I was going to say... pre-Ptolemaic Egypt.
Ooh. You just busting out Ptolemy like it's nothing.
Yep. Busting it out.
Busting.
Let's see. So I think if we go for Ptolemaic Egypt, we're just going to wind up in sort of Greek.
Yeah. So the reason I'm quiet is because I'm now staring at modern Egypt. Maps of modern Egypt. You know, if you just look up and down the Nile. Now, if there are Egyptians in chat and they think it's funny that I would just name stuff after this. After all, if somebody were to look at a map of Iceland and call their fantasy city Grindavik, I would think it would be hilarious.
Yes.
But I am not Egyptian, and neither are my players. And if I had an Egyptian player, I'd give that a lot of thought. And when you're doing stuff for your players, and you're not publishing anything, you're not, you're not putting it out into public consumption. Granted, that is what we are doing right now. You only have a duty to entertain you and your players.
Man. Egypt is one of those places that I would love to just be able to see.
Yeah.
Like, because looking at the map, it presents an image that is outlandish to me, you know?
Yeah. This is, as an Icelander, this is bizarre. Just, like, rivers having this much of an import, for instance. Like,
yeah.
all Icelandic towns are thin strips of road desperately clinging onto the coast.
Man.
Now, a lot of these are tip over into like too Arabic for my taste.
Yeah. So here's the
Khalifa.
cheat code.
Is it Emily?
No. It is Civ.
Ooh.
Civ has, you can find the city name lists on the Civ wiki. And Civ 5 has a list of 55 cities for Egypt.
Whoa.
So that's something we can steal inspiration from.
I think a Byzantine might be fun as well. Persian. Like, we don't have to just go Egyptian. We can.
It's true, but what I'm thinking is if we're using the rivers as cultural separators, one of the kind of easy ways in which we can do that is take these different routes of naming for each river.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you? So, like, if we're doing the cities here by this river, if we try and stick to Egyptian origin for things we're looking at,
and then we
go to the next river, and we can expand that list and just go Persian origin.
Yeah. So pre-Ptolemaic Egypt, yeah.
Yeah, I think just looking at the Civ 5 list, we can start at the bottom, and we are going to find cities we have never heard of in our lives because we have never played Egypt in Civ 5 and built 55 cities.
That's correct.
And we would never have heard of these cities, nor will any of our Icelandic players.
No. Amara. Semna. Hermopolis. Can we get an opolis in here? Hermopolis.
Now that's very Greek, certainly.
It is very Greek.
But
also known as Gemenu.
Ooh, I like that one better, personally.
Gemenu. Yeah, it's good. Chorus, Beniharan, Badari, Amra. Let's do Gemenu.
Yeah. Now, Saf mentions Memphis, which obviously, excellent name. It's
Americans
too bad
ruined it.
The people of Tennessee have claimed it.
Yeah. Also, I think of Jeff Daniels playing the guitar in the newsroom. I don't know. I assume you've got no idea why that's what it is. But
I don't. But I'm certain if Rob the human was here, it would absolutely speak to his heart. Hjalt is back. Sees we have some progress. Absolutely, we do. We are currently naming cities in and around Razamal.
Hjalte, do you want to name a city? Hjalte's character married the current queen of this place. Also, I'm choosing to read his message as some progress. I think he's a little disappointed. Somewhere along the way, I stopped my productivity music, but I was still productive. So.
Wow. That's progress.
Koptos.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us, and glad to have you.
Nick might know the newsroom. Nick's if it's.
I don't think it's the same Nick.
It's a different Nick.
I think so. But this Nick is here, and as a result, this is the better Nick by virtue of being here now, watching us. Hjalte says it's the opposite of that sum. It is an impressive amount of progress, thus by implication.
When I call this city Koptos. Well, that's good to hear. Hi, Nick, by the way, and also, I'm happy you caught us live. I'm happy to catch you live.
Nicola asks, when you make maps and think of these towns, do you put thought into what they will be, or do you wait until your players are going that way? Oh, there's the other Nick. He's here too. He is equally good, Nick. I'm sorry. He is threatening to haunt my nightmares, and
that's not
worry.
very good, Nick.
Oh dear.
Sometimes sometimes I know what a town will be just by looking at the map. Maybe there's a mountain nearby or something like that. And then I know. But if I don't waste time on trying to figure that out right now. I just keep trucking and trust future Daði will have these problems figured out eventually. Future Daði is really good. He continues the work that past Daði has done, and present Daði is doing.
It also kind of goes to the principle of planning one session at a time. Like, have an overarching plan, but plan one session at a time, and accept that every time you plan a new session, you're reinventing something.
Yeah. Right now, by the way, I'm taking the names that I think I will have the easiest time to say off the cuff randomly. Just sort of in the middle of a sentence or whatever, and I'm giving it to the biggest towns because I'm most likely to need to reference them. The smaller towns can have names that I might struggle with, and by virtue, a lot of other NPCs might struggle with them, and I won't struggle with them if I make an adventure about them, because I'll practice. 24-mile hexes, Saf.
So, firstly, there's a bunch of suggestions that we name one of these cities after Nick. Any Nick, just Nick in general.
Alright, hang on. Nikos. That's very Greek.
And yes, that is very Greek.
Nikora. I don't know.
There's also here a wonderful question I find from Hatchet Jack. Your opinion of Eurovision, the movie, and how they portray Iceland.
I unironically love Yeah Yeah Ding Dong.
Yeah, I unironically love that movie as well. It's obviously a comic portrayal. In particular, the elf stuff. It's a classic idea that Icelanders believe in elves, but.
And Will Ferrell does a Swedish accent for some reason the whole time.
He does. But that being said, it's a hilarious movie.
Yes. We also have a fan theory about, well, I say we, Victor, our friend, has a fan theory about Pierce Brosnan's character, is that he is recovering from a stroke. Because his accent is so slurred. It sounds like he's really having a hard time with the consonants. No, but the movie's great. It's a lot of fun. And it's to some degree it's poking fun at Iceland, but also in like a way that feels like a friend doing it, because there is this love in it. And it just feels nice.
And obviously we've played D&D with probably the biggest Icelandic play, like the actor that played the biggest role actually played by an Icelander in that movie.
That's right. Björn Stefansson, Icelandic actor. He's the one who shouts "Play Yahya Ding Dong."
Yeah,
one of the guys who shouts it. I think
he was the other sailor.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan's friend.
Yeah.
We met him. We met him on a job, and we talked a lot about D&D. And in the end, we played together a bit. And that guy is such a D&D nerd. It is amazing.
By the way, I just want to highlight to you that the people have been following with deep interest the fate of the city of Nick as you've been working your way through versions of the name.
Nick, it's Nihum.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Nihum.
Hjalti also mentions Assyrian city names as inspiration, which I think is an excellent suggestion, at least for one of the rivers, because it's another thing we can steal from Civ.
Ah, yes. So, Hjalti, we were talking about there are these 3 rivers. To catch you up, and also anybody who might still be watching, there are going to be there's this basin, the Kawadi Sink, and there are these 3 rivers that come out of it, and we're going to name each of those rivers, and we're going to associate them with a culture, and we're going to use the Civ 5 or Civ 6 name lists for towns. We're looking through them and we're stealing names and we're putting them here on the map. And so we could assign one of them Assyria. And is that how you say that?
Yeah.
And then we'd go through the list.
Nickham, also known as Nick's home.
It's lovely. Oh, I've got a message from somebody. I'm just being tagged.
Oh, it was we were being
Oh,
Nick is highlighting the Donkey Kong
there he
roundhouse
goes.
kick.
For everybody who wanted to know what Donkey Kong doing a roundhouse kick looks like. Banana. Lovely. Thanks, Nick. If you want to be able to draw pictures of Donkey Kong doing roundhouse kicks, consider becoming a channel member and get access to our exclusive Discord, where you can send us pictures of Donkey Kong doing roundhouse kicks, or other things if you want. We just introduced a voice chat in there, which has a soundboard of me saying silly things now.
That's it. I didn't even know that. That's funny.
I joined the voice call a bit yesterday, and I was talking to folks, and I was like, well, I might as well do that soundboard. If you're seeing that there are many Nickhams, then that's because I copy paste names and then I edit them, and then I forget that I've copied the name, and then we end up with duplicates.
Thráin Guðbrandsson asks,
Yeah.
I was wondering something about DMing. Do you have a system
I know Thráin. Hi, Thráin.
Do you have a system for NPC names so they don't sound ridiculous? Like, do you have some piece of fiction or something you look to, whether that's in Icelandic or English?
Yeah. TV show characters and actors and things like that. I take their names and I break them up into chunks and then I swap them around. And then I have a DM's best friend, fantasynamegenerators.com, run by our friend Emily. I say that every time. We don't know Emily, but she is our friend because she puts all these names on here, and that makes her our friend. And then I click on them, and then I pick one I like. Thráin and I went to film school together.
Oh, that's fun.
I believe he also plays D&D, or has played D&D, or knows Brimrún, at least, somehow.
Oh yeah, I think we met at the Golden Circle publication.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Publishing party.
We did, when they published their comic.
Yeah.
AB is texting me. She is shocked to learn that you're talking, and that she has been replaced.
Well, you know, we've long since established that AB and I have many similarities, and you know, when AB's away, Mikey will play. That's how it works.
That's how. That's just science.
That's just science.
Now we're just placing names. This is a very chill stream. You know, if you thought you were about to get some inside scoop here, I don't know if this is it. Thráin plays with Palle and Dagur regularly.
Yeah.
Those people too.
Sharon's in the chat as well.
Oh, that does mean the girls are watching it in the cabin. Good thing they didn't hear that thing I
yeah.
said about them earlier.
That's true.
She's furious. I'm just getting texts in all caps. I promise, AB. I promise. He's not replacing you.
I, on the other hand, promise nothing.
Hang on. I have three. I have three. Nick Holmes. The girls are shocked by this replacement.
That's funny.
I just keep getting texts in all caps.
Oh. Gunnar Lindfors says, I work in a pharmacy, see hundreds of names of patients and doctors daily, and I can guarantee that no matter how silly you think the name you made up sounds, there are real life names that are 1000% sillier.
Yeah. But when I say a silly name out loud, my players giggle and point at me.
That is true. And if, God forbid, you ever forget a name, we will remind you forever.
I feel like I'm running dry of names here. If anybody has played Civ up to 50 cities, or is familiar with Egyptian history, then they will see me for the hack I am.
Oh no.
I've been informed that AB is taking your wife.
Oh no. Well, frankly, I not much I can do to stop them right now.
No.
So
We could get in the car and drive out there.
we could, but you know.
Let the girls have their fun.
Yes. I used to go to school with a guy named Snooch. It's now the name of one of my NPCs because I love that name so much. That is remarkable. Mad Max.
Hang on. What was the name? What was the name of this? Bessel. Why am I reinventing the wheel here? Bessel. There we go. She's mad. Listen, I was as I said at the beginning of the stream and once in the middle of the stream, but thanks for joining, girls. I said that I am able to create maps when I'm blabbing to somebody because I've started doing it only when in voice chat, and I figured if I was going to be productive, I might as well invite Magnus to talk to me, and he has helped.
What you're seeing right now, our dear viewers, is the true, genuine fear of a couple of men being caught out by their partners.
I can't call it Oryx. No, there's that's never gonna fly. There's a character.
No. Yeah.
Piemro. Piemro. I've now moved on to the Civ 6 list.
That's okay.
Oh, and Kafele. Hang on. So this can be up here, and then I'm gonna put Kafele down here. Kafele was closer to the shore though, so I'm gonna have to move this.
I mean, you know, there could always be justification for that.
I mean, they
Gotha
went
goes
there.
hard, says Bachel. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, let me just... Oh, it's not on there. It's on. One thing that gets really messy is when you have all these layers, you just get lost in the sauce. I don't have a cure for that. If I did, I would have ascended by now, and I wouldn't be live on YouTube. I'm gonna keep seeing what messages my girlfriend is sending me. Yeah, she's
Hey, Elijah Jacobson, thank you for joining the channel.
Hey, somebody joined?
Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, welcome Elijah. You can now send us pictures of Donkey Kong.
You know, if you want. You don't have to.
We're not particularly excited about Donkey Kong. That's mostly Nick. Yeah, Helt is talking about the zooming into areas method.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Coot. Alright, we're gonna name this place Coot. The girls are now leaving the stream because we hate them.
Well, you know. It's okay.
Thanks for joining, girls. Alright, we got some towns here. We got some towns, and we've lost our partners. Your divorce is waiting in the paper, and it's waiting to mail.
No. It was good while it lasted.
Yeah. You know, life is not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Exactly.
This journey resulted in you ending your relationship.
Thank you for attempting to join on Patreon, Sensei. We'll be glad to see you tomorrow.
Oh. Well. Yeah, it sucks. Thank you, though.
Well, D. Coupark talks about having a town split between the two halves of the river.
That'd be fun. Maybe that's what Dashur is.
Yeah. Hjalte, I do appreciate your suggesting of another wedding at another party, but as my dad says, weddings are great, but that's no reason to keep having them.
Your dad's such a character. So I'm just going to plot down some mountains. I think there's some mountains here. And maybe there's one up here. Maybe that's why there's no towns here. The answer doesn't always have to be mountains, but it can always be mountains. You know what I mean?
It's true. I think it's important also to remember that, I mean, this is just a desert, so there's gonna be a lot more flat land, presumably, than in most other places.
Yeah. Because also, just flat desert is plenty of reason for there not to be towns somewhere. So I don't need to put in.
No, absolutely.
AB says that I have to say that she's my favorite and that I like her more than Magnus.
Well, I'm glad you preceded that statement with AB says I have to say
it. She is my favorite and I like her more than you. But you're not away in a cabin right now. You are available for live streaming.
That's true.
Though I don't know, given what the discussion we've just had, maybe some drunk partners might be about to join. Probably not the optimal stream circumstance, I'll be honest.
Probably not.
Sorry, I'm texting my girlfriend to make sure I still have one. Mountain here? I don't know. Can be. Doesn't have to.
Throwen once again points out, or why is there no town? Mountains. The most Icelandic reason.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm placing mountains. Yeah, that is correct. See, I think I want to put a little bit of them down. There are some mountains in this entire continent.
I mean, there can be, but like if we look at
you don't like it. You're mad. You're mad about the mountains.
Well, mad is a big word. If we look at a height map of the Sahara, there are absolutely some well-elevated parts of it. So I don't object to some mountains.
Because I don't think I'm going to go crazy with it, and I don't think I'm going to put them up here. I think I'm just going to put some closer to the coasts here. Because I also wanted to sort of give a little bit of an excuse for why the river went all this way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put a couple of rocks in here, just so that I know, you know, there's something going on. But the barrel flats shouldn't have that many of them, so I'm just gonna go like that, and then. Alright. Mountains. And we've got this little peninsula. What do we... So, also, we know that a lot of this is just desert. So, I'm going to get this... Go in the clutter layer here. And I'm just going to put in some hills. And just a little bit of hills in empty spots is a great way to communicate to anybody looking at the map that it's empty for a reason. I am showcasing emptiness. If there weren't hills here, you might think that I'd just forgotten to draw on this part. But there are. So I didn't forget. I also think this is like a really craggy sort of Cliffs of Dover kind of just steep drop off. So I'm gonna put some mountains all the way up to the coast to like make that implication clear. Like, you know, like so. That's not great. That looks kind of shit. Now there we go. We got some cliffs here. And then I'm going to put some hills ahead of it. Or like north of it.
Hey, Owen! Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much.
Ah, the hills. They do so much.
Right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's like we've had a thought about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're sand dunes.
Hang on. Do we want some trees?
Exactly.
Am I permitted a forest? I don't know. That's the wrong vibe, isn't it?
It
no
is.
Forests.
No forests.
You can also put these sort of little tufts in if you want to indicate that there's like tufts, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna put some more sand dunes. You know, like that. And that's 2 regions. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's been it's been 3 hours, and we have drawn 2 regions. Hopefully, this gives you some kind of sense on how long drawing a map. Let's zoom out. How long drawing a map of this scale takes, because it's kind of insane. And I typically don't do it unless the adventurers are about to go there. But I want to make an upgrade, update the map. I want to put some more stuff on it. So let's continue zooming out every time the software lets me. And you can see the scale of this thing. Somebody asked earlier how big this map is. It is 23,000 pixels by 18,000 pixels. You can see the tiny little bit we've done. And if you then feel like, hey, we've been doing this for 3 hours and that's all we've done, and I do feel a little bit of that, you then have to remember, but I was having fun. I was talking with Magnus. I was thinking about this world. We invented together this idea of these 3 rivers and these 3 civilizations that spawn off of it. So the whole process can be fun and exciting. And that means that it doesn't take 3 hours to do this. You get to spend 3 hours to do this. It is a fun thing to do. Literally, the reason I'm live right now, and the reason Mike is with me, is because I wanted to draw a map, and I knew it would be easier if I was talking to a friend of mine while I was doing it. So I called him up on Discord, and I was like, hey, do you want to go live? That was it. There was no premeditation or anything. We just figured we'd go live. So in that sort of way, that's kind of what this is. I could have been playing a video game right now. I wanted to do this instead. I was excited about doing this. It's my day off, and if you want to spend your days off on making maps, then you should do that. If you want to spend your days on drawing mini or painting minis, or making handouts, or building terrain, or doing maps digitally, or in pencil, or whatever you like doing, this is kind of an excuse for you to spend a bunch of time in your world and living it and breathing it, and slowly you believe in it as you get to this point where you feel like you're looking in the box and you don't know what's going to happen next, and it becomes this explosive creativity. I don't think we're going to hang out a lot longer, Magnus, unless there's something you feel like we should do before we finish up.
No, I think we've done quite a bit. And I think starting a new thing right now is maybe a bit much. We could go through just a couple of the sort of questions that are still here.
Yeah, as we round it out.
Yeah.
Gunnar says it's not empty, it hasn't rendered yet. Damn right.
Damn straight. There was a question that I swear I saw seconds ago.
Nick asking about volcanic areas?
Yes, that one.
Well, we just put in some geysers.
Yeah. There's a volcano in Washam, just outside Freeport.
Yeah, there's a big volcano there. But oddly, for an Icelander, I've put very few of them in here. And maybe that's because my players probably know more than me. I put a geyser into a town, and suddenly everyone was an expert. It was kind of wild.
Yeah. Hjalti is also wondering about the colors on the map. The reason behind the various different color layers that cover the continents.
Oh yeah. So I've separated out the map into what I think of as realms, which are these sort of broadly, and I think historians and Orison would think of these areas as broadly kind of connected, or sort of their fates are kind of inexorably bound together in some way. So the southern blue is blue, and Atroxia is purple, Quinrell is green, Casteria is blue, the Drashkut is orange, and the Old World is yellow. And these are the 7 realms, and they all have histories that are very tied in with one another, and sort of overall themes. This also lets me categorize them into a useful way when I'm writing these blurbs on the wiki in Obsidian. So that whole process becomes just kind of a useful barometer for what it is I'm doing.
Yeah. Let's see. Is that Iceland in the bottom right corner? I don't think so. If you do have Iceland snuck in there somewhere, I'd be...
There's an Iceland snuck in here, but it's not actually Iceland. It just ended up looking a little bit like Iceland.
Hang on. Where is here?
In the North March. I can't zoom in.
Yeah. No, I see it.
Absolutely tank this thing. I wonder if it's on here. Yeah, it's the same sort of shape on there. Oh.
How do you make islands that don't look hideous? Asks Daniel McGuffey.
Embrace wonky shapes. And then occasionally I go on Google Maps and I snip archipelagos or islands and I paste them in, and then I draw the shape, I copy it. You would be amazed at the kind of stuff you can get away with. I have been drawing a fantasy map, not for this, but for something else. And we put Italy in there, and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed.
Yeah. Freeport, absolutely. I love Freeport.
Yeah. That's in the same sort of way, you know, to put in and live with, right? But we discriminately just get stuff out of modules we like, and we just put it in here, and you know, it's not for, we're not selling this, it's not published or anything like that, so it's okay for us to just put Freeport into your world. Like when they made the Freeport module, they were hoping you'd put it in your world and you'd run it.
Yeah, quite literally, it calls things just the outside nations and the pirate god and the sea god. Like it is specifically designed to be plugged in.
Yeah.
And it's a great little city. And that book, the Guide to Freeport, is the most dense source of little quest hooks I've ever read in my life.
It's amazing, that book.
Yeah.
I had in here yesterday. Hang on. I could do. Magnus, can you entertain the ladies and gentlemen while I grab a little treat for the end of the stream? A little bonus,
yeah, absolutely.
little bonus content.
I can do that.
So I'm going to put the map up, and I'm going to mute myself, and I'll be right back.
All right. Klaus Olesen, you're asking if we could have Dad print out part of the map. Yeah, absolutely. We do that in like sticker form, basically. That's one of the solutions we've talked about, but ultimately, it's gotten to the point where enough changes have already happened that the next iteration is definitely going to be a whole new reprint and a whole new replacement. There's also this big discussion going on about Fork's gin encounter. Which
Okay.
I hope. Oh yeah, you're back.
Hello. You were saying it's jam packed, and it reminded me. I bought a thing yesterday, and I was showing this off in the voice chat on the Discord. Last plug: if you want to become a channel member, you can join the Discord and hang out. But you were talking about how jam packed it was, and I just bought. I'm gonna have to switch my broadcast camera mode here, so that everything functions. Ta-da. Hello, I'm not actually in outer space. I'm just in my bedroom. I bought this, and I'm gonna hope that the blur. I'll try and put it in front of me. This is the Forgotten Realms AD&D City of Splendors box set, and I wanted to share this with you, Magnus, as well as the ladies and gentlemen. This is a box set for AD&D. It's from the late 80s, I believe. Rather than, it might be early 90s. 94. And it blew my mind that when I opened this, if you've seen my starter set video, you know that these things, the starter set has a big cardboard thing in the bottom to make it seem like there's more in the box than there is. But when I open this, it is actually full to the brim.
Wow.
Because there's so much stuff in here. There is 3 booklets. This is completely unrelated, but you know, whatever. It's my stream. There's 3 booklets. There's a adventurer's guide to Waterdeep, a campaign guide to Waterdeep with a Xanathar on it. Look at this gorgeous original Xanathar art. It's gonna blur it all up, but there it is. And then it's got this who's who, which like is all the guilds and noble families and that kind of thing. And you know how when you get these starter sets, there's like a poster map in there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you buy old AD&D starter sets, you get 5.
Holy hell.
2 of them are a Waterdeep city map. Because the map is so big, you have to string them together.
Oh wow.
We put it out on the big meeting room table. It's a 3-meter long table, as you know, but we put it out on the table, and it genuinely took up most of it. And then
Cool.
there's a map of the Castle Waterdeep, all in this kind of retro. I'm gonna try and get it so the blur doesn't, because this is just, I'm in my bedroom, and you know. It looks like a bedroom right now, but this is the thing. And then there's this map of all the towers I don't know why. There's nothing in here. These are just empty towers, so it's a bit daft. And then there is the Adventurer's Quarter, featuring a tavern called the Thirsty Throat. That's got applications. So I bought this. I bought this used. I found a nerd on the internet, because all the nerds in Iceland are in the same Facebook group. And they wanted to get rid of this, and I offered to buy it, and I picked it up, and I was shocked at how much you got out of a box set back in these days, because you were talking about how jam-packed Freeport is.
Absolutely.
We were flipping through this, getting a huge kick out of it.
That is super cool.
I wish they still made box sets like this. I'm assuming they do. I'm assuming they're just ruinously expensive, like the Curse of Strahd, the Curse of Strahd revamped or Legendary Edition. Those things cost a lot of money, but they're so cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. That is very cool. And I mean, that's the sort of thing that's super useful, because as we were talking about recently, they keep kind of reinventing these places. So
yeah,
being able to plug a setting into your own setting, like a Freeport or a Waterdeep or whatever. You don't just have the modern version of it; you have the whole history of that place to steal ideas from. Which is really nice. You're
not limited to 5th edition's Waterdeep if you wanna run Waterdeep like I do. I run it a lot. You can go straight to the source. And if you don't want to, I'm sure most of this is on the Forgotten Realms wiki by now. But I like having all this stuff.
I like having something physical to flip through.
Yeah, to browse, to get inspired.
Absolutely.
Well, Agent Maelstrom, it is 1 a.m. Maggie and I, we should wrap this up, shouldn't we?
We absolutely should. But it's been a delight. Thanks for having me on.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming. Well, everybody, that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you're feeling like supporting the channel directly, I encourage you to come check out our YouTube memberships or our Patreon if you want to get access to our firearm rules that Magnus and I co-designed. That PDF is available for patrons on the Adept tier or higher. And if you're feeling especially generous, make sure to like this live stream, comment, subscribe, click the bell to be notified when we release new videos. And until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.